In this video, we're going to be rounding out part 3 of our 3-threat tier list. So let's jump into it. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this, the third and final part of our 3-threat tier list breakdown. Joining me as ever is Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir? Oh, right. I'm not communicating with you via grunts and bleeps and bops for the remainder of this video. Although, according to some people, it might be more on point.
I think it'd be preferable for some people in the comments.
So, let's first of all, Quinn, remind ourselves where everybody sat at the end of the last video. So, in S tier, we had at the very top of the pack, and I think unsurprising to no one, Baron Zemo. We then had Black Cat and then Ghost Spider. A tier, we had Captain Sam, Lizard, Domino, Arnim Zola, Lockjaw, Iron Man, Baron Mordo, Baron Hydra. Baron
Hydra.
I know, I couldn't think of his name. Baron Strucker, Proxima, and then the Living Mummy. And then in B tier, we had Drax, Luke Cage, Kraven, Pyro, Moon Knight, Magic, Doc Ock, Mysterio, Mystique, Groot, Black Panther Chosen of Bast, Angel, Deadpool, Iron Fist, Beast, Hood, Ant-Man, Iceman, Ms. Marvel, and Crystal. Then in C tier, we had Gambit, Baron Mordo, Howling Commandos, Maverick, Crossbones, Merciless Merc, the Black Widow, is it? No, Black Widow, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Heimdall. And then in D tier, we had The Punisher, Darkstar, Hawkeye, Crossbones, and Clear. Before we get into some of the comments, Quinn, are there any changes that you... Because it's sometimes you take a look at it, don't you, after a little while and just sort of think, well, actually, this person should be higher up, this person should be lower down. Are there any changes that you can see that you think you might want to make?
Well, I feel as the People's Champion and the person that is here to regulate everything you do, it is my solemn obligation to veto Lockjaw's placement in A.
So I went back and looked at this because I was ready to put Lockjaw into B tier. And I went back and watched the video. And it was you that said A tier. Yes!
I probably got caught up in all of your, like floundering about the dog. I'm just like, oh, he's clearly going to want to put him into A. Let's throw him a bone. Put it
No. So I think Lockjaw, and I think he goes down a little bit, to be honest with you.
I think he goes down a fair bit.
I think he feels like this sort of place is...
Are we really saying Lockjaw's better than Mystique?
There we go.
Middle of the pack. That feels
middle of the
fine.
pack. Perfectly fine. I also think I want to do a little bit of something else up with this A tier. I want to knock Proxima up a little bit. And I actually want to bump her up to here. Because I've been playing a couple of games with her and using her as a splash. And I really think when she is highly underrated. The amount of movement, I think we spoke about it, didn't we? But that long move and then builder. I don't know if it's a builder or a flat zero, but
it's a zero, but it's just
it's a zero cost, zero power. But the guaranteed range one place off the end of it is just really nice. A couple of others. Where was I looking? Where was I looking as well? I think that might have been. Is Luke Cage? Is Luke Cage, and does he?
I don't think he's as good as people think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a brick and he won't die, but that's all he is.
I also think there's probably an argument to say Zola, not in S tier, but should be further down.
I think I'm happy to have him at the bottom of 8. He's not someone you see splash, but he's someone that probably should be.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we can allow Luke Cage to be in the same tier as Lizard, because Lizard does Luke Cage's job much better than Luke Cage does.
Without the bodyguard, yes.
He doesn't bodyguard, but like in terms of like being a brick, Lizard does it better.
Lizard
does it faster.
The best brick in this list, I would say.
Probably. I can't think of any better bricks.
Yeah. As we like to do with these and any other, let's have a look down the bottom, right? I feel like C tier is fair. I don't think there's anyone. And then again, D tier, I'd maybe argue for this. But we're splitting. We're splitting hairs at this point.
At the top of the shit pile. Great.
Exactly. I quite like this next little bit, Quinn. Let's have a read through some of the comments from the last video. And let's start off. First of all, start off. I'm loving these tier lists. Brilliant. I like that one. It'd be awesome if Heimdall had an. It would be awesome if Heimdall had an innate ability to grant allied characters attacks, ignore enemy characters' stealth, for example. He sees everything into his allies. That could be quite cool. Spend a power, ignore stealth, because Heimdall has seen where they are and can direct you. I think that's pretty.
I'd kind of like something a bit more just for himself, because, with what we have with Heimdall right now, there's nothing for him as the all-seeing that can't be given out to other people, which doesn't quite feel right to me. His gift of foresight should influence him in a more impactful way than it influences others and how he helps them, right?
Absolutely.
If you couldn't modify or reroll against Heimdall, I think that could be cool, because he's already seen it coming. That kind of vibe. And also this is coming off the back of me having fought Heimdall in Ragnarok, God of War, recently, where he's a boss fight in that, and just having something regarding him, seeing something coming. I know he's got the attack he can do when people walk into range of him, but I think something along the lines of just helping him out either offensively or defensively with regard to modifications, I think could be cool.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I don't think it'll push him over the edge by any stretch. He's in C tier for a reason.
Let's have a look then here. So this is from James Dye 5695. Just got to the end where they address comments. Yes, Quinn's facial hair is indeed coming along nicely. I started to disagree with some of the placements, but I think it should be noted that all of my disagreements stem from the leaders and the play style I have. Currently using Professor X a lot, so Iceman and Angel get a lot more value, having free range with extract while also moving a character at the board is absolutely skewing my opinions. How often do you think this is maybe the case with the characters and people's disagreements with their placing? I would say that many of these characters shift massively in tiers depending on affiliation and leader, even who you take them with. For example, I expect Miles to be top 2, maybe even top of S tier, but with Steve 1 or Professor X, he is probably undisputably the best 3, with Magic being the second best. And I wanted to read this comment out, Quinn, because James, you've absolutely hit it on the head, right?
We found the one person that understands that these are opinions. Oh my god!
It's first of all, they are opinions, and you are right. Any one, I would argue, Quinn, any one of these characters you could put in the perfect scenario, and they're going to work reasonably well. But we're not.
Can still kill herself whenever.
Clea can still kill herself, but you know she can choose not to. Right? It's not like something you have to do. But it's a really, really good point that you make there, James, because we aren't just looking at these and going, okay, in their absolute perfect scenario, how good are they? We're thinking about a couple of different things, and you know, one of the things that you have to look at is, what does the character bring in isolation? What does the character bring with a tactics card? And then you're absolutely right. What else can the character do when they're under a given affiliation, whether it's their own or whether, you know, they're splashed? Now, there are some characters who it doesn't matter where you put them, right? Baron Zemo, for example, has an impact on every single board that you put him on, because he has an innate ability that gives out rerolls in attack and defense, long move, charge, can dish out damage, right? Very, very good, which is why you see him at the very, very top. And I'd argue, Quinn, you put him in a Steve 1, he gets even better. You put him in a Weapon X, he gets even better, because he's already a very, very, very good character. The other thing we're also doing is looking at them within their own given affiliations, but then looking at them versus other people that are out there. You know, Quinn, you just brought up a point there. Lizard versus Luke Cage. And don't get me wrong, by the way, Luke Cage was second at the very top of B tier with the exception of Drax. That's really good. Like, that's a really good character. And I think sometimes people think that if a character isn't in A, then we don't think they're good. What we're saying with Luke is he's perfectly balanced. Like, he's a good, solid, all-round character. He goes in B tier. Like, that's kind of what it is.
And I think even when we were discussing Luke, right, we mentioned that his throw is only like terrain and size 2, right? And
yeah,
we call out those kinds of things in a sense to be like, well, if this thing was different, that's probably what would get a character into A or into S, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We always say, right, one little thing can be the difference. And then lastly it's our opinions. They're our opinions, right? We play a certain way. You've already got the idea. I mean, you've got the idea that we don't like the janky extract play, for example. But are we bumping people down because we don't like janky extract play? Absolutely not. There are some janky extract plays that are absolutely busted. I think you even said, Quinn, Lizard, when we came to Lizard, you were like, he's the first of the characters that he's the play style that I don't like. And yet we put him up, you know, towards the top end of A tier. The last comment I want to talk about, Quinn, and we can't go through them all because there were so many. Gilberto Riviera Media, I don't know, something like that. Gilbert, I'm going to call you. This much like the first episode, should not be taken seriously. First part, we agree with. This is entertainment.
These are incredibly serious videos. It's not like there's a running gag of an alphabet game throughout the entirety of it. It's added entertainment value. So,
first part, we agree, right? There's 3 parts he makes in this. But bias RTT playing gents who don't really know that IRL meta is funny. So let me break that one down. So first of all, when you say RTT, I think you're meaning TTS.
It's either TTS or Reality Time Thanos is what we kind of came down.
Yeah,
right?
And I mean, I used to play.
Thanos is like 2-3 years ago now.
I know more. I played
They
Reality
keep
Time
that,
Thanos. Well, actually, no, I'm thinking of Lockdown. So it was after Lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been
But
the first few months after.
but I mean, either way, let's talk about the second part. Who don't know the IRL meta? Which one? Which meta are you talking about? Are you talking about
The
what
meta,
we
Rich.
see?
The meta.
Are we talking about what we see in Europe, what we see in Australia, what we see in America? Are you talking about the different metas that we see just in the UK, where the north of the UK has a very different meta to the south of the UK? In Wales, it's different. Are we talking about the east coast of America, the west coast? You get my point, buddy, right? If you are talking about TTS, that's the one place where most people can experience people from all over the world playing the game and discovering new ways to play it. And the last part, to say that we only play on TTS, just isn't true. I am in a league at Leodis Games where I go and play one game every 2 weeks. I've just come off the back of a GT event in Stockport at Element Games. I've been over to WTC in Copenhagen. I couldn't go this year because it was my partner's birthday, but the year before I was over at WTC. And on top of that, tens and tens and tens of smaller events at local gaming stores up and down the UK. Quinn, you've done the York Weekender, you've done the Spring into Marvel, you've been over at Tritex, like you've been all over the UK playing games as well, right?
I've been around the joint. Yeah, I mean, I've ventured so far as to go to Exeter for an
You
event
did go
for
to
one of
Exeter.
Marcus's.
Yeah, you
I've
did
been
go to Exeter.
London. I've been all over the joint, like I said.
Yeah, you were at the Sheffield GT earlier this year. Like, so just to clarify, we do go to IRL events. But again, IRL meta is very different to an online meta. An online meta, you learn from anyone around the globe. If all you ever do is play with the same 8 people at your local gaming store, how are you ever going to learn new things? So not quite sure what you meant with that. And then lastly, his little comment was, Luke being low B is insane. I agree. If we had put Luke in low B, that would have been insane. We put him at the very top end of B, just next to Drax. So again, another part that we agree on, but maybe you got it wrong a little bit. With all that said and done, Quinn, because I do like the little let's address the comments, let's jump back into it. And let's start with Pietro Maximoff, a.k.a. Quicksilver. Another long mover. 3s across the board. Only 5 stamina front and back, but that's fine. Supersonic Strike, an attack that can effectively be infinite.
Yeah, so long as he's got targets to bounce between.
So long as he's got targets to bounce between. But it is only 3 dice, but it is 4 dice, but it is range 3. Both of his attacks are range 3, aren't they? Which is quite nice. Speedster, which just means later on in the game, his action economy, as long as he isn't holding an objective, can be really good. Paying 2 power to get a long move. Yes, it doesn't have an attack on the back end of it. So he's not quite Zemo in that sense.
Well, equally, it's not taking an action, right? And I know there's the whole charges are 2 actions together, but this is the type of mobility I like to see in the game. Because it has the stipulation of not having an objective.
We like this. It stops the bullshit. Can't catch me, Quinn. Whenever he's targeted by an attack, spend 3 power, do a short move. I do like that it's omnidirectional. But then if he's out of range or line of sight, the attack ends. So you can And because he's got wall crawler, if you can get over a size 3 piece of terrain or something and get down the other side of it, he's going to be out of line of sight. Supersonic reflexes, reroll 2 physical or energy defense dice.
It's spider senses.
It's spider senses, yeah, and then wall crawler. I mean, he's fine. Like he's at that baseline, and what he lacks in aggressive output with only having the 4 dice versus the 5 dice builders and stuff. He gets in the move, and the fact they're range 3. So I think he's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, he does have some tactic cards. Well, he's involved in some tactic cards and then has a tactic card.
Yeah, so his own tactics card, can I borrow that? After an attack made by Quicksilver that damaged an enemy character holding an asset token, this catches people out a little bit. So this doesn't include civilians. So these are your hammers, your alien ship cores. They're not your senators and things like that. Basically, he can spend 2 power and steal it from them. I like this card, Quinn. It's not as good as some of the other things that are out there, but I'll tell you why I like this card. It's a bit more balanced than some of the other, I'm going to steal that from you. First of all, it's only a one-shot, so you can only do it once, and then it's done. And it's not a guaranteed result. It's not a guaranteed
when you play it. But if you want to try for it, you can fail.
And that's what I'm meaning. Yeah, that's what I'm meaning. Is the fact that yes, it is. It does mean that if you're going to play it, you've always done the damage, but he may not always get the damage through. So I do quite like this. He is also a part of Difficult to Please, but we're not going to go through that because it's a card I used to play a lot, but less so anymore. Where do we think, Quinn, starting out for Mr. Maximoff?
I feel like he's somewhere in B, right? Somewhere in the grand miasma that is B. I don't think he needs anything to change with him. But
I think he's perfectly fine. In Inhumans.
He's just kind of fine.
Inhumans and Brotherhood. Is he also an Avenger?
And Avengers. Well, yeah, because he's in Age of Ultron, isn't he?
Speed 1 cost speedster feels a
pretty good.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad. Yeah, I feel like middle of B is
somewhere in there, right?
And I do like that he takes that standard baseline and goes above it, but in different ways. He doesn't get extra defense. He doesn't get, he gets the long move, and he gets then the ability to do some non-action based movement as well. So I do quite like he's something a little bit different. Where does he sit? I mean,
before we place him, I want to address the amendment to Lockjaw. I think he needs to go lower. That is exactly where I was going. I think he needs to go about there.
Danny gave me shit all weekend at
he called me out initially for it. I was like, look, I can only do so much about the old man.
But we've ascertained Quinn did it. Go back and watch the original video. Quinn said A.
Don't. Just don't. How about you do that? How about you just take me at my word?
I mean, is he better than Danny?
I think so. I think he's better than Deadpool. Like, I honestly think he's probably either side of Mystique somewhere. I think.
I'm okay with that.
Like,
yeah, I am absolutely fine with that.
They both kind of got like a blue and white color scheme. They're both long movers. They both got range 3, 4 dice attacks. They're very similar,
They're both mutants. They are like the negative of each other. He has the blue suit and the white skin. She's got the blue skin and the white suit. I need an alphabet, Quinn.
B is for balanced, which is what Quicksilver is.
I like it. Nikolai Krylenko coming up next.
Yeah, you can have this one.
Red Guardian. I think at first glance, a lot of people look at Red Guardian Quinn and put him in the same category as Old Steve 1. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what I mean by that, go and look at his old character card, right? He held the accolade for best affiliation on the worst fourth threat for quite some time. Old Colossus, that type of character that just doesn't really work. But
it's a brick that's like been dropped down a well.
But Quinn, 3-3-4, so slightly ahead of the game when it comes to defenses. And then for the threes, he can spend 2 power and add blanks, which is nice for physical and energy. He is only 5 stamina on his front, going up to 6 on his back. And again, I think he'd go up I'm not saying a tier, by the way, but he would go up a notch if he was a 6-5 rather than a 5-6. And then Red Guardian suit, after he's damaged by an enemy or allied effect, if he's not dazed, he gains an extra power. So he does have pretty good power generation. But his attacks are not bad. A strike with a guaranteed push away short is not bad. And yes, it's only size 3, but that covers
that's the majority
X% of characters in the game. He's got what I refer to as shield thrower. It's not version 1, because that was old Taskmasters that didn't even generate power. This one at least generates power, but it doesn't have...
This is technically version 3, right? Because Sam has the best one, but he was the second iteration of Shield
I think
Throw
so. Yeah, I think so. But that's, ignores cover, line of sight, that sort of thing, with the flat builder on there as well. Yeah. And then Siberian Shield Slam, right?
Which is
K3, strength 6.
But for 1 more.
Yeah, guaranteed on a character that is a threat less, so you don't mind that. But 3 power, and often when you're doing this, Quinn, you don't care about the 6 dice attack.
No,
if anything, I found it very annoying before when that 6 dice attack has spiked and has killed my opponent before I can throw them. But you do get the throw on there. He does come with a card as well, Quinn, in the form of Comrade's Keeper, which is very similar to Heroes for Hire, Lethal Protector, all these sort of character one-off bodyguard cards. This one, again, works ever so slightly different to the other ones. So this is when an enemy character targets an allied character that is within range 3 of Red Guardian. Spends 2 power. He can place himself within 2 of that character. He becomes the target regardless of line of sight and range. This one is a little bit... The bit I don't like on this is if he suffers damage from the attack and is not dazed, after the attack is resolved, throw the attacking character away from Red Guardian. Now, don't get me wrong.
You'd like it to be one or the other, right?
The last part is really nice. The throwaway can really disrupt your opponent's plans. But having to take damage, whereas other cards like Heroes for Hire, Prince's Protection don't require that. It is something I would like to see changed on his card to bring it in line with the others. But usually, you've got Dynamo, so even if you're not taking damage, there's that 2 power that you paid for Dynamo to reroll your opponent's dice. I have done it before where I've rerolled 2 with the hope that I take a damage, then I can throw somebody as well. But with all that said and done, Quinn, I think he is perfectly fine. I would change wording on his tactics card just to bring it in line with the others. I'd love him to have a better version of shield throw, but I don't think it's needed. I think for where he is, which I think is only Winter Guard, I believe.
I want to say,
yeah, he is only Winter Guard. I mean, he's the best 3-threat in Winter Guard.
Low bar.
Which is a low bar. It is a very low bar.
Arguably the lowest bar.
It's, I mean, you've seen where Darkstar is. But I really like him, Quinn. Whenever, I mean, you know how much Winter Guard I played. He does an absolutely solid job for them. Is he splashed? No.
No.
Should he be splashed? No.
No.
There's no reason to ever splash this character. There are better.
When Luke Cage and Danny exist. Like, if you
Luke
want a
Cage,
free threat that can do Heroes for Hire, you've got much better options.
Luke Cage, Danny, Sam, if you want the shield throw. Like, yeah, he's definitely not a splashable character, or not one that I would recommend splashing. But all said and done, Quinn, I think because he brings that card, it does bump him up a little bit. I think he's in B tier. I think he's perfectly fine. I'd probably put him, just above Danny, if I'm being brutally honest.
I was thinking more below Iceman.
Oh, I think that's probably fair.
Right, but, let's be honest, he's hardly the cream of the crop.
No, and to be fair, in Winter Guard, he's good, but you're never seeing him anywhere else.
Yeah, no. If we were doing a Winter Guard tier list, sure, he's A tier, but we're not.
And B Quinn is for?
Bugger, I've blocked everything.
I like it. Okay, Quinn, next up we have got Catherine Kitty Pryde, a.k.a. Shadowcat. I mean, it should be Shadowcat and Lockheed, right? The name of this card. Because he's there. He's on the bay. Is Lockheed a he?
Lockheed's a whatever the fuck a Lockheed is.
Well, it's a dragon type thing, right?
It's a dragon from Limbo, I want to say.
But surely it has a gender. Who knows? Who knows? 3s across the board. 5 stamina front, 5 stamina back, size 2, right? Very baseline everything. With a long move. Now, what makes her long move very interesting is she's an X-Man. And a long move in X-Men is pretty good, Quinn, isn't it? To say the least, with the cards that they've got access to and things like that. Did you ever think we were going to get a long move in X-Men?
I think it was kind of inevitable with the amount of X-Men that they were pumping out that we were going to get one. Like, there are so many goddamn X-Men in this game. And I know, it's cashing in on the nostalgia of people like you. But also, can we have something that isn't X-Men, please, AMG?
Well, the last couple of months haven't been as bad, right? We have had, we've got some.
It's like every year you get at minimum 2 X-Men waves, and it's like, oh god, again.
But what does she do? Well, she's got phasing, strike. It's going to be range 2, strength 4, power equal to damage dealt. But your opponent does not add crit results in its defense roll to its total successes, and you can't explode them. So all of a sudden, it artificially bumps up the viability of that.
By virtue of that, because rather than it being 3 and 8 for defender, it's 2 and 8, and they can only have their base number of dice.
Yeah,
that's
and then
big.
Sidestep, place this character within one of itself, so she gets a little bump. Which is quite nice because it can then lead into... Because I believe, Quinn, I'm right in saying if you're at full range 4 and you bump yourself forward by 1 on a small base directly towards the person you attacked, you will then be within range 3, which then unlocks her other abilities. I'm pretty sure...
That would be true if she had a range 4 attack.
Oh, God, this is only range... I've got the 2 and the 4 the wrong way around. Ignore that last bit, but we'll keep it in. Yep, scrub that, Quinn. Go get them Lockheed, or get them Lockheed. Range 3, strength 4, flat power, but incinerate on a wild, which is quite nice. And then her spender, intangible assault, range 3, cost 3, strength 7. Again, no crits across the board, which is quite good. And then ghosted on a wild, place this character within 2 of itself. Phase rush, place yourself within 2. Can't touch this when this character is targeted by within 2 by a physical or energy attack, or would make a dodge roll.
Or an allied character. That's important.
Or an allied character, yeah. Basically, add 2 to the defense or dodge roll. And then if the character is pushed or thrown by the special rules of the attack, after the effect is resolved, you may place the pushed or thrown character within 1 of itself. So works on pushes, works on throws, doesn't work on advances, and doesn't work on places. But it's pretty darn good. And then rounding it out, stealth. I mean, she's a little bit different, isn't she? Which I do like.
Yeah.
A lot of movement. I know you played a little bit of X-Men, Quinn. Did you ever find a place for her, or?
She always ended up in my rosters because she's one of my favourite mutants. But because I was playing Scott X-Men, she never really found that much of a home. Yeah, like I think she's much more suited to like the other X-Men leaders, who admittedly I have much less experience with. She's not a New Mutant, right? Or is she? She is a New Mutant. Okay,
she's a New Mutant as well.
Where I'll end up playing her is in New Mutants. That's where I'll get the most like leg work out of her. That spender is like surprisingly scary. Like when you start to think about it, you're chucking 7 dice at someone who's only counting wilds and blocks. That can actually really start to hurt, and it's only 3 power.
Yeah, wilds and blocks, and yes, they can modify them, but if they're rolling 3 dice, that's the maximum number of blocks they can ever get is 3, which means they can't spike. I like her. She does bring a couple of cards, Quinn.
Yeah,
she's got Hold Still, which is going to be one of these new active action cards. Spend 3 power, choose an enemy character within 3 of Shadowcat, place Shadowcat within 1 of the chosen enemy character, and then you make the attack. Weirdly, you have to make the attack. Shadowcat makes the attack above targeting the chosen character, so you have to target him with the attack. But it's a range 1, strength 6 attack. On a wild, before damage is dealt, the character drops all objective tokens they're holding. And then on a double wild, after the attack is resolved, place the target character within 1 of this character. So you're like moving them back on yourself. So I suppose you can do this to flip somebody back, and then if they drop, they're going to drop them when they do that anyway. Oh no, because it's nerve damage is before, shifted is after, so it doesn't quite work like that. But I think it's fine. Like, it's a little bit like the Quicksilver card in that it requires you to do something.
Yeah.
And it's not just a granted.
It's arguably worse than Quicksilver's because 1, it's an extra power. 2, you have to play it before you know you're going to get the drop out of it.
Yeah,
whereas
absolutely.
Quicksilver knows he's going to get the steal by the point at which he would play the card. This is by far and away my preferred form of attack that makes someone drop something, because it's
100%
once per game and it's on a conditional trigger.
Yeah, feels far less egregious, I would say. And this just needs a wild, right?
Yeah,
it's not like it has to do damage or do anything else like that. It's just a single wild, which I think is perfectly fine.
And I think in a world where, if the older steals in the game or the older drops in the game were addressed, I think this would shoot up in popularity as well.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And then she does also have Faithful Companion, which is the Guardian Dragon. When an allied Shadowcat or magic, so this works with magic as well, is dealt damage by an enemy attack or superpower. After the effect is resolved, she may play this card. The character that played this card immediately makes the attack above targeting the enemy character that dealt her damage. You ignore range and line of sight. Now, why is that good? Well, it's good if somebody has an attack that then lets them make a long move off the back of it, right? Somebody like Ghost Spider, Corvus Glaive, something like that, and they can't move out of range.
Or a Shuri pushing from range 5 away.
Or a Shuri pushing, yeah, something like that. This is fine. Like, it reminds me a little bit of it's like reverse cruelty, where
kind of
but with this one, it's like, if the person targeting you, I mean, first of all, I don't think it's a card you take a lot, but if you do, if the person targeting you has got 1 or 2 health left, you might use it as a little, maybe I'll get away with it and do it, but...
Yeah, and I also think because of the characters it's on, that neither of them have built-in rerolls, so they've not got any dice fixing natively. If a card like this, which is taking up a full tactic card slot, which is a big deal, if it's gonna have just a wild incinerate trigger on it, just make it guaranteed. You're spending a card for it, you might as well be guaranteed something.
Yeah.
It's not like the other card where, the wild is to drop something or have a huge impact like that.
One incinerate is not a lot, is it? Is not a lot at all. She also has stealth as well, Quinn. We didn't mention that, which just keeps her alive that little bit longer. It means that she can get out of range of things. Overall, Quinn, I think she's a nice character. I think she's got a nice home in New Mutants. I think you are right. I think she definitely suits Professor X or Storm's X-Men over the more aggressive and attrition-focused Scott. But I think she's solid. And again, it's a character who does something a little bit different. Lockheed's on the base, so you're always going to get some extra points for that. And yeah, overall, I think she's pretty good. I think she's perfectly fine. I feel like she goes somewhere near Magic, in and around that.
I think that's higher than I was expecting for her, but I think with the advent of New Mutants becoming a thing, I think she's definitely got the potential to be up there. So I'm happy to have that as a speculative placement, something that might be revised upon further playtesting. But yeah, I'm cool with it.
I'm just looking, actually. I do prefer Doc Ock.
Yeah, I think...
The problem is
arguably we've got Mysterio a bit too high.
Yeah, I feel
Mysterio needs to be bumped down. I think Mysterio hangs out with the dog.
I think Mysterio's probably somewhere around here, isn't he?
Yeah.
Even with that really nice tactics card that he brings.
Yeah, we have to factor in that he's very slow.
He is very, very slow, yeah. And you are often going, my turn, I will activate Mysterio. Mysterio is done. Your turn. Which, by the way, is sometimes quite a nice thing to have, right? Sometimes the board's in such a state where you go, I would prefer it if you made the next move, and I'll see what hand you're going to play first. Yeah, I feel like she probably just edges out, because very similar to Quicksilver, right? In that she's got a lot of movement with all her places and things. She's got a card that, whilst different, ultimately can achieve the same thing. I just feel like Shadowcat has a little bit more going for her.
She's a bit more reliably punchy, I'd say, based on her 2 physical attacks. Yes, Quicksilver can go infinite, but the odds of it are incredibly low.
Oh,
In
it's
terms of like
so
getting more
low.
than like one extra attack out of him, like, and also she's got a support function in terms of can't touch list. Like, she can help the rest of the team.
She can indeed, yeah. So does that put her any higher than with that support function, do we think?
I think she probably goes above Mystique because Mystique is lost deception.
She
Like,
has, yeah.
I
Really
think
has.
that's like relatively fair in terms of placement.
Yeah. And then B Quinn is for...
Best mutant, or at least in the top three.
I'm just looking.
Do you remember what my top 4 mutants are?
Oh,
'Cause 2 of them
your
are on this list.
your
Not
favourite,
in terms
not...
of like
Oh,
in this list, just in
okay.
terms of my personal preference for characters.
Ilyana Rasputin,
Yeah, Magic is up there because of Marvel Rivals now.
Shadowcat.
Yeah. The other 2 aren't on this list, so you might need to think a little bit
Are they going to
more
be
about
on the
it.
list? Emma Frost.
Emma Frost, yes.
Who is your third or your fourth favourite mutant? Which is a weird number to pick, but...
Well, it's because Magic got added into the mix. It used to be a top 3.
Okay. Does this person have blades?
No.
Oh, okay.
Were you thinking of Psylocke or something?
No. I was meaning like blade, as in like where they
Oh no! Like this is favorite from a character perspective, not necessarily from an in-game perspective. Like I love X-23 in game. I'm not too fussed about the character overall.
You're gonna
Although
have
she
to
was
tell me,
great in
Quinn.
Deadpool and Wolverine. It's Max.
Does Magneto have one of the best backstories?
I think so. It's so good.
Because I feel like nearly every other character, you can kind of change it up a bit and you can do whatever, but he is one where it just needs to stick, doesn't it? Okay, Quinn. On to Herman Schultz next.
Ooh.
Hello, my name is Herman Schultz.
Herman Schultz.
Oh, how you say a coinky dink? AKA... AKA Shocker. A newer character came in the wave of Spider Foes and Crimson characters that we got, which I've really enjoyed that box, Quinn. I've got to say, I mentioned to you earlier, I was currently painting up Sandman. I'm getting through some backlog after moving house, and I do enjoy that box. Every character in that box has a place somewhere, I feel.
I think that's fair.
Which is a little unusual. But Shocker, aka Herman Schultz, 433, so slightly above the curve. 5 on his front side, stamina wise, 5 on his back. Size 2, medium move, but on a medium base, so that little bit more movement. A couple of range 3 attacks. Builder is going to be 5 power. Power equal to damage... 5 strength, power equal to damage dealt, and a stun, which is nice.
Wild stun on a builder is not to be sniffed at. Like, if it happens on the right character, you can just ruin their day.
Yeah. Shake them down. 7 strength, costs 4, which is a lot.
4 feels pricey for a single wild result stagger these days. Like, that feels like an initial core box kind of
It
spender
does.
attack.
Even with him being a 3 threat, I feel like
A bit much.
this could have very easily been 3, and that would have been fine. Vibrational shield, add 2 dice, so all of a cut sudden, it becomes a 6/5 against physical and energy, which does make him very difficult to take down. The big thing about him, though, Quinn, is if the ground is rocking, don't come a knocking. No, that's not the one, is it?
He'll be a shocking.
He'll be a shocking. When the enemy character within 2 of this character makes an attack, it rolls 1 fewer dice on its attack roll. So we've seen something like this before, Quinn, haven't we, in the form of Honey Badger, where she reduces the defense dice and it stacks with Incinerate. This reduces the attack dice and will stack with Shock. Weirdly, Shocker
not giving out shock.
Oh, don't start this again. I've got endless amounts of grief for this. His name is Shocker. He should have right. Shake him down. Make it still forecast, but do guaranteed shock on it. Why not?
I think the idea is that he's
vibrational.
He's actually using vibrations, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, which just means that he's got a stupid name, which is arguably worse.
This is the second attack in this game that has something shock, something that does stun. And then he has immunity to stun. I think
I wanted him to be a 2-threat, and I think a lot of people did.
I really
a 2-threat, and this was prime candidate.
This was prime candidate 2-threat, and I feel like you could have easily made him a 2-threat by. I mean, what would you do, Quinn? You drop him down.
If the ground is rocking, becomes range 1, like Honey Badger.
Yeah.
So that's already one thing done. You can remove his immunity to stun. You lower the dice on his attacks by 1 each. And I think you can keep that at full cost, and then that's actually reasonable. If maybe even make it 5 dice and 4 cost for a 2-threat to do a wild stagger.
Yeah,
feels in line with Widow to a degree. I know hers is only 4 dice, but still.
I was going to say, can a 2-threat have 4 defense dice? But White Widow does, doesn't she? On her Mystic, is she 4 Mystic?
Does, yeah. I think if you're going to keep him with Vibrational Shield, I think you make him 3s across the board.
Maybe I would say so.
A 2 on something, potentially, for a 2-threat. And obviously, lose some HP. But
maybe you keep his HP, but he's a 2/2/3. And Vibrational Shield is 2 power.
Spending power. Yeah, I'd be cool with that. It'd feel fitting for the character in as much as I know of him, which is a handful of cartoons he's appeared in.
I think everyone was kind of guessing he was going to be.
Yeah, he's not the star of the roster in any iteration, as far as I know.
No, he's really not. But I think he's perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with him as a character. I think it's just we would have liked a 2-threat 4 foes.
If he's going to be a 3, maybe give him a card, because he's not even on the big combined card that gives out conditions.
No, he's not part of any. He's not part of any of them, is there? I don't think he has his name on a single card. So
I don't think so.
But yeah, I think he's probably the weakest in that box. Sandman, Vulture, Electro, and Shocker. It's probably a toss-up between Sandman and Shocker.
I think Exceptional's gone. It's a toss-up, but I still think Shocker loses out. He's in the same vein of character as Lizard and Luke Cage. He's a brick in a different form. He doesn't have damage reduction, but he rolls a lot of dice if he's got power, and he reduces enemy dice. In the right setup, on the right mission, with the right team, he can do a lot of work. But
perfect scenario.
That's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, perfect scenario. EMAP down the middle. He's horrible on Gamma Wave, right? You just sit him on the middle point, and it's for God's sake. But yeah,
also, funnily enough, pretty good in New Mutant.
Yes. Yeah, I hadn't. He does have some splash ability.
When leadership was first spoiled, I tried them out and I put him in there, and it was just this is just in my face now. Oh, don't like it.
Yeah, especially if then for them to do the follow-up attack, and it's all of a sudden you're now rolling 1 dice less. Yeah, it's pretty nice actually. I hadn't thought of that. All that said and done, Quinn, whereabouts do you think he should be?
He's probably low B, maybe a C. I don't think he's a C.
I think as much as we'd have liked to see him being a 2, it's not like a bullseye situation, is it? Where it was this character is so bad, he could be a 2-threat. It's no. If you're going to make him a 2, you need to tone him down quite a bit. So we're not saying that. But I mean, I feel like
He's like Ant-Man, Iceman type areas.
I'd argue he's probably bottom of B just because he doesn't really do anything.
I think
I'd argue you'd get a better crystal activation than you would a shocker activation.
Yeah, that's probably
I know,
fair.
like, a lot of shocker strength comes from what he's doing outside of his activation, but any kind of displacement or any kind
he becomes
the opponent's part.
He becomes once he's activated, you say, unless he's in certain scenarios where a new mutant or something. But once he's activated and you can move him, he's not doing much, is he? Like once you take him out of the picture, you can ignore him. He's not a character you need to go for and take down because he does just have a range 2 bubble.
He's not a threat.
Yeah, that's a fair. That is a fair assessment. Yeah. And B-Quinn is for?
B is for... What is B for? I don't know enough about the character.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time he's been stumped.
I could do something really like crap for it, but like, better off as a 2.
Better off as a 2. There we go. There we go.
I mean, like I said, I could do something crappy like that, but I was like, oh, can I do something interesting? And it's like, no, Shocker isn't interesting enough for a good alphabet.
Turns out, no. Shuri Quinn, up next. A character who has had...
No, it's pronounced Shuriken.
Okay. She's had her ups and downs. 2 years ago...
She used to be, like, at the top of this list.
Yeah. You used to see Shuri everywhere because that Panther Gauntlet was not size restricted. And that was really the big thing, wasn't it? Like, that's kind of what they changed on her. She gives out rerolls, right? Upgrades is really nice, especially because it's a spend X. So that's, works on attacking or defending. So she's got some splash ability there, but there's better people that do it.
I mean, shall we just look at her direct comparison in this list?
Are we talking about Iron Man now?
No, Zola. Zola is like new Shuri, in effect. His rerolls are better. He does ranged attacks. He does power gain like she does. Like he doesn't push people, but he gives them conditions instead. And just comparing the two of them, Zola is a lot better, I'd argue.
I don't think the push should be underestimated.
I think the push can be really big, and going into a Panther 2 Wakanda list where the pushes can actually do damage. She can potentially pump out 3 almost guaranteed damage a turn in that list, which is pretty good for a character that is there for support.
Yeah.
It's the fact that her rerolls don't work on herself, I think, is really making her struggle now. Whereas Zola has arguably worse defenses, but because he can reroll himself, he can dig himself out of trouble in a way Shuri can't.
But does it... Because I would say 95% of the attacks you're doing with Shuri or have ever been made with Shuri are Panther Gauntlets. And actually, the reason you do it...
I'm talking from a defensive standpoint, though.
Oh, okay, defensive-wise.
In the sense that, Zola has more health and he can reroll himself. So he's got a tick in the defensive standpoint. Yes, his rerolls have a downgrade, a downside if you have skulls, but it's something you can be informed of, or if you're rerolling single die, you've got a 1 in 8 chance of it triggering if you've not already fulfilled the requirement. They have a lot of parallels, and I think in a lot of those instances, Zola is better as a splash, but in affiliation they kind of do different things, you know?
Well, they're almost acting as the same role in affiliation.
Yeah,
like
they're that support role in affiliation.
A backpoint support role character, which
is helping whatever game plan you're going for with leadership, right?
Yeah, I think she's somewhere in B.
Yeah,
which feels like a bit of a cop out at the moment, but I mean, again, it just kind of shows how balanced the game is at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel like in affiliation, she does a very good job, especially under new King T'Challa. As you say, because of those pushes and that extra damage, she does give out the rerolls. She is very good at generating her own power. So yeah, I think she's solid. I feel like she's somewhere below Quicksilver and above Lockjaw.
Somewhere in that gamut, yeah. Is she better than the third version of her brother? Is the question. And I think I'd be much more likely to play like Shuri as a splash than I would Chosen of Bast.
Yeah.
And I'd argue like in the affiliations they're in, you're a lot more likely to see Shuri than Chosen of Bast. So arguably she's better.
I think that's because two of those characters that like they're both leaders. The other two,
the other two are leaders, and like there's only one Shuri, so there's no like contest in that.
And also, he's a Midnight Suns Defenders character, not a Wakanda character.
But like you know, like that is something that still has to be taken into account. Is like, are there other versions of this character that are better? Because that's something that we did with Widow, right?
No, absolutely true, absolutely true. And B is for
bashing people about with Panther 2's leadership.
I like it. Cynthia Schmidt, next Quinn, aka Sin. 4 stamina on a front, 6 on a back. Some of the worst artwork on any card. Not that we're going to knock her down for that. I mean, I don't think we need to knock her down any further.
Is the artwork that bad?
Her injured side is.
It's fine. Like
3-3-4 auto pistol with an auto rapid fire. Make it personal. Insult to injury means she gets to do it again. But it's Mystic instead.
Right.
And it has to be Mystic. Which is weird. Like, yeah. Red Mayhem. During the cleanup phase after scoring VPs, because she is a leader, roll a die for each objective token contested by an allied character. If the result is a crit, wild, or hit, push each enemy character contesting the objective token away from the objective short. Then, roll a die for each enemy character holding an asset token within range 2 of an allied character. If the result is hit, crit, or wild, then the enemy character drops 1 asset token of your choice. Only asset, not civilian.
So half of our leadership can be useless, given what crisis you're on, which is great.
Yep.
That's what you want from a leader. Isn't there another character that came out at the same time that has like a stupid random leadership like this? Or is she the only one?
I think she's the only one, right?
Maybe she is. I vaguely remember there being someone else, but that could just be me misremembering. Why would like leaderships are like the cornerstones of a squad, right? For the most part, in like 99.99% of games, the leadership is the crux of what you're doing, right? Whether it be Steve 1 or Cyclops or Miles or whoever else, your like leaderships should be a very important part of your squad. Having a leadership that is entirely random is terrible.
Yeah. So the only thing I can liken this to, because I think it is one of the only other leaderships in the game, is Crimson Dynamo's. And it's the second part of his leadership, which is when this character is contesting, or when an allied character is contesting a secure objective and would be pushed, roll a dice. On a crit wild block, your character is not pushed. Now, by itself, that's a pretty terrible leadership. When it works, it's really good, and it feels like a bonus extra thing. But on top of that, they have another paragraph or another line above, which always you just remove a condition.
Leadership,
which is the real leadership. Yeah.
If you ask someone what Winter Guard leadership is, I'd argue that over 50% of the time, people will not mention that second part.
They just think you can remove a condition. Yeah, that's what they'll think. This kind of has the second part, the thing that can happen, and when it does happen, feels like a nice little added bonus, but doesn't have anything else to go with it. And like you say, because you cannot determine what you're going to be playing, the second part of it could be completely useless for the entire game.
That is specifically only if you're playing a Sin-only roster, which I would argue you're almost never doing. But
this
still,
is
the
true.
fact that you can have a leadership that just doesn't work is pretty bad. Not only in terms of how it feels to play it, but also, I'd argue, in terms of game design.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, there's a couple of things. Actually, I would say there are two things that need to change for Sin. She needs to become either a 5/5 or a 6/4. I would argue 5/5 is what would be better overall.
Yeah.
She needs another line above above her thing. It needs to be, and in addition, during the cleanup phase after scoring VPs. Because everything else is fine. Hit and run, perfectly fine. Or, rapid fire pistol with a guaranteed rapid fire is quite nice because you don't need the trigger. You can always generate 2 power on her during a turn. She gets extra power when she's damaged, which is nice. She's got stealth. She's got partners in crime with crossbones.
I mean, that could be updated to just be Brock Rumlow, just for future proofing.
I would like that as well, yeah. But she needs a change up of stamina, and she needs something else on that leadership. Because it's just,
It's real bad.
It's not good at all, is it?
Even if you just took one of the aspects of the leadership and made it a guaranteed effect, with some change, if you made the second part of it where you make them drop an asset, if you make them drop an objective token, but they place it, and it's only one targeted character per turn, that could be interesting. Because Sin typically, in when we've seen her played, it's typically been a very wide list, right?
Being a 3-threat leader, you generally find that, don't you?
So you go for a wider list, which means that the majority of times your opponent is going to be taller than you, which then means that if you're making them drop an asset and they have to place it, they can just place it next to their guy and potentially pick it back up. But if they've had a turn where they've really stomped you into the ground and you've gotten prio, suddenly there's an interesting element there, or maybe it encourages you to go taller with Sin. It opens it up to some more interesting ideas.
Yeah, it needs something though, doesn't it? I think it's fair to say. And with all that said and done, Quinn, I think there's only one place for Sin, unfortunately, and it's double-edged, and it's because she has the worst leadership in Cabal right now. So there are just better leaders, and there are infinite better leaders.
Considering I can't remember Malekith's, but I know it's better.
When an allied character dazes or KOs an enemy
He's reverse
character,
Sam, isn't he?
another character may
he's reverse Sam.
make a short move and heal one and get a power and whatever.
Sim does have 2 cards, by the way.
She does. She does. I think we might have already gone through them because it's Illicit Tech and To Ash and Cinder, which are all Crossbones cards as well. Neither of which are great.
Illicit Tech's okay.
Yeah. But
Not great, though. Like, yeah.
So she's D tier, I think, Quinn.
Oh, but guaranteed D tier. Like, she's terrible.
I feel like she hangs out because it feels fitting that we put them together.
Yeah, she's with her partner in crime.
But yeah, down in B tier, and B stands for
what? D stands.
Oh, sorry,
for...
D.
B
D
tier
stands.
Sin. God, what world are we living in? D is for Daughter of Evil because she's Johann's daughter, isn't she?
Daughter of Evil. There we go. Scourge the Executioner, Quinn, 4/3/2.
Yep.
So on the whole, scores 9, but is separated, slightly out. It's got some pretty good attacks, right? Battle Axe is,
being
6
a 6 threat. Being a 3 threat with a 6 dice build is pretty good.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at my Dracula list going, how did I miss Scourge? Executioner, you get to reroll 2 dice if they've already got bleed. It's an 8 dice attack. Right hand man, he can become the target of it, so reverse bodyguard. He's got aggressive, so he can get back onto point. He's as guardian, so he gets an extra power.
Throw.
Size 3 terrain feature throw. Costs 3. And it is only range 2 and short. If it costs 3, I often like it to be medium or 3. If that make
Yeah.
But that's fine. I quite like him, Quinn. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily think that his builder needs to be a flat 1 power. Like, I understand where they were coming from because it's a 3 threat with a 6 dice builder, but he doesn't have all that much to spend that power on anyway.
No.
And it just give him a little bit of help,
No, that's fair. He does have access to 3 cards, Quinn. Yep. Meet My Executioner, which is required for Enchantress to be about for that. So when an allied non-Scourge character would suffer a collision, Enchantress may spend 2 power, place Scourge within one of the characters suffering the collision. You reduce the damage by 1. Like, fine. Scuttlebutt on me. This is a card, Quinn, that I've started playing more and more with Bill. Because just to finish somebody off is really nice because it doesn't require an action to do it. And the fact that Scourge can do this as well is quite nice. And then lastly is Weapons of Midgard, which is
Des and Troy, yeah.
Des and Troy. It is an action. It's a 5 dice beam 4, but with nothing on it.
If this had a whole card for it.
If this had bleed on it, I'd be like, Scourge is going in my Dracula list. All of a sudden.
Yeah, like just something, anything.
Yeah, because you want a little bit of something on there. But Scuttlebutt's the one that I would say, but I'd never be taking it just for him.
I'd argue that maybe that's one of the reasons why he's got a flat 1 power gainer is so he can't do a massive Scuttlebutt on someone. But like, if he's getting beat up by doing the right hand man anyway, he's gonna have plenty of power for it. So I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
Yeah. Overall, Quinn, I like him. I think he's fine. I don't think anything really needs changing on his card, really. I think he's perfectly fine.
Yeah, like there's nothing too special about him. I'd argue like the one thing I'd like to see changed is Meet My Executioner. I'd like that to be a Heroes for Hire style card, and have the same like requirements of like Enchantress pays for it. But if it's specifically an attack targeting her, she doesn't pay. He just jumps in.
That'd be quite good. Yeah, that'd be quite good. Yeah, it feels like it's a very, very niche card.
Yeah. It feels like they were trying to make up for the fact that like Enchantress doesn't have Mysterio's collision thing.
Yeah, maybe. Because whilst it's her that
ways of fixing that.
Enchantress pays for it, but it can be used on anyone, can't it? Other than a Scourge. But yeah. I think he's fine. Like I say, I think he's pretty good. I think he's fine. He's definitely the better of the two characters in that box. Again, he's up against Valkyrie for 3 threats in Asgard.
Which, let's be honest, is even after the nerfs, stiff competition.
It's very stiff. Very, very stiff indeed. I mean, I'm looking at him, I'm thinking he's kind of in that lower bottom third of B tier, somewhere there or thereabouts. He's Ant-Man, Iceman, Red Guardian type placing.
I'd argue he's probably better than the dog.
Yeah.
Like, I'd put him like maybe just above Mysterio. Like that feels reasonable.
Yeah, mid-tier B. I think he's fine, isn't he? Yeah, and B Quinn is for?
Battle of the Pelennor, which is where Carl Urban was Aemma.
Carl Urban, he's just a good guy, isn't
he? He's a good guy.
And he's the best Dread we've ever had.
I mean, low bar.
And probably will ever get. Spectacular Spider Bob next Quinn, aka Peter Parker.
This guy's pretty good,
I hate him. And if you want to know why, ask Doxy. Yeah, Peter Parker. He's the core box Peter Parker that we needed, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, 3 threat. Just
still doesn't get to be an Avenger.
Just infinitely better than the original core box Peter Parker. Like,
such a low bar.
A threat less. And I would say if you took the threat off these characters, showed them to somebody who had never seen them before, and said which one is the best, I think they would still pick this one. Does all of the usual Spider-Man-esque type stuff. Enemy character throw, size 3. Within 3, throw it short. So again, I feel like it's maybe a little bit overcosted on some of the other characters. Bullshit web slinger, because obviously why wouldn't we? Why would we have movement on other characters where they couldn't be holding an objective, but all spider people can? Lots of pushers, lots of advancers, wall crawler, spider sense. I think he's very good, Quinn, if I'm being brutally honest with you. I think he is a character as well that you can splash. I think if you're wanting a 3 threat that does something a little bit different. He is a shield. I was going to say he's only in Web Warriors, but he is in shield as well, which I think does help shield quite a bit. I think having a 3 threat like this is quite nice for them because it's something a little bit different. I mean, it's just solid. The only thing I would say is he doesn't have a way of being able to generate power that effectively because these builders are just flat gainers. but that's the offset, right?
Like that's that's baked into the character in terms of its balance, right?
Yeah, yeah. Does he have? I mean, he's got access to Cat and the Spider.
He's also got Go Get 'em Tiger.
Go Get 'em Tiger as well, which is pretty good. Like, spend 2 power after you've dazed or KO'd someone, and if he's holding an objective or holding an objective token, he can heal 3 damage in a special condition. And if he's not contesting a secure objective, he gets to make a short advance. Like, neither of those things are bad.
Yeah, I'd argue like you're more likely to see it happen on ASM.
You are,
But,
yes.
If you need a 5th card, it can be a 5th card.
A 5th card, a 10th card for your list, something like that. Then, yeah, absolutely. He's not the best spider person on this list, Quinn.
He's barely in the top 3. And there's only 3 of them.
I was going to say, actually, there is only 3, isn't there?
There are only 3 that should be in the affiliation. I'm looking at you, Mark Spector.
When I said spider people, I meant real spider people, not
people who should be in Web Warriors.
Not Moon Knight. I feel like he's also pretty good in Web Warriors as well. He does all the Web Warrior stuff that they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, runs away with an objective, basically. I think he's solid. Like, I don't think he does enough to get out of B, but I think he's up towards the higher end of B in terms of what he can do and what he does.
Yeah, in my head, I've got him next to Doc Ock.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
I feel like that's reasonable,
I like how we're doing this as well. We've got some little little partnerships going on. Little partnerships forming. Yeah, I like it. And B Quinn is for
Bitten by a Spider.
Bitten by a Spider. Oh, from one Spider Bob to another Spider Bob. Miles Morales. How has this man dodged any nerf?
Oh, he's got spider senses, mate. He re-rolls 2 dice when dodging.
Yeah. 3s across the board. Reroll 2 dice against physical and energy or dodge. Web swing, but it gives him extra attack dice on his webline kick, making it a 6 dice, range 3, power equal to damage dealt with a throw off the back end of it. Great responsibility, which I do. Did Miles get told great responsibility? Because I've never liked I've always associated that with Peter Parker, right? And I think most people do.
My only real knowledge of Miles comes from the Spider-Verse movies, but doesn't Peter pass that on when he dies?
Oh, is that
does he do the same thing that Ben did for him to Miles?
Maybe.
Like that could be a thing. I'm not entirely certain, but
all allied characters may reroll 1 defensive die. Additionally, they may modify and reroll fail results when they are holding or contesting an objective token. And this isn't just that 1 die that they get to roll from the leadership. It is all dice modification if they're holding or contesting an objective token. Stealth. But the real one here, Quinn, isn't it? Venom Blast. After the attack is resolved, the target character drops all objective tokens they are holding. Venom Blast, an attack that Venom doesn't have.
No,
I know it's no. I know it's not Venom.
Different.
I know it's not Venom.
Entirely different.
I know it's not Venom.
Like, you know how we were talking about Shocker paying 4 for a chance at a wild stagger?
Yeah.
How about paying 3 for guaranteed objective drops?
I just think this, first of all, needs to be 4 power.
it needs to be 6 dice, and it needs to be, if this attack dealt damage, they drop 1 objective token they are holding.
Or right, we make this an attack that gives out shock, because that's what Venom Blast does, because, electricity powers, and you give him a card that lets him maybe make someone drop an objective, like Kitty has. Also, I know we're talking about like his spender here, but can we talk about Webline Kick and how ridiculously overtuned it is for a 3-threat?
What? Range 3, 6 dice? What's wrong with you?
Range 3, 6 dice if you've done a place, which you most likely have done, with a wild size 3 throw.
Yeah? Yeah, but don't forget, that is before damage, so even if you daze them, you still get to do it.
Right. I'm looking through this list and like, are there any characters on this list that have like wild throws on builders? And I can't see any, because that's a thing that like typically 5s and 6s have.
Wild throws on builders.
I don't think there is anyone.
No.
Because
no,
it's
because
not a thing a 3-threat should have.
Luke has stagger, but it's double wild. Is it?
Luke has stagger, but it's double wild. But like that's not a throw still.
No. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
A throw is far more impactful than a stagger in the right situation.
At least not that we've gone through. I don't think.
I've just had a skim through the others, and I don't think they've got one either. He's the only 3-threat in the game that can throw people on a builder, and like 3-threats should not throw people on builders.
No,
they just shouldn't. Like, if anything, his wild effect on that should be like he does a range 2 place or something, like, or he gets an elusive or whatever. Like, just the play pattern of Miles going, I'm gonna start my activation within 2 of someone. I'm gonna make them drop all their objectives. I'm gonna hoover them all up, and then I'm gonna move and web swing away from them. And it's like, okay, cool. Most characters in the game cannot catch you.
And he's got stealth as well. Don't forget that one.
Oh yeah, he's got stealth because he should have stealth because his power is he can turn invisible. That's fine from a flavor standpoint, but is horrific from a gameplay standpoint of that that particular play pattern.
Yeah,
it's just not fun.
I also think because his web swing gives him extra dice, I really don't think he should be able to do a web swing whilst he's holding objectives.
Yeah, either that or you just get rid of the extra dice because the extra dice feel egregious anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got a 3-threat throwing 6 dice at range 3. Sure, you paid 2 power to do it, but it's not like that's the only thing you're getting out of that 2 power. You're getting a range 3 place out of it, which is already worth 2 power.
Yep.
He's just so obscene.
Well, he is egregious, Quinn.
If you haven't guessed by now, he's going in S tier.
So, there's only one question. And I know my answer to this. Because is he more or less egregious than Zemo? And I'm going to say...
by far and away.
By far and away. Zemo is egregious because he has a long move charge and can dish out quite a lot of damage. But it's still dice dependent, right? It's what Zemo does.
Good odds on those dice because of what he does.
But what Zemo does is dice dependent. What Miles does is not. And I think because of that, if S tier is the bullshittery of who needs the biggest nerf,
he goes at the top of that list.
He's one of the most splash 3-threats in the game.
Yeah. In his own affiliation, he is really good defensively because he gets 3 rerolls including skulls.
3 rerolls including skulls. His win rate as a leader is stupid. Add on then the fact that when he's in affiliation, he has things like Spider Tracker. Is it Spider Tracker?
Yeah, Spot Tracker, you can just leave when people go and attack him.
He goes top of S, right?
By far and away. Like, I don't think he can not go to the top of S.
He does have his own bullshit level. And the level of bullshit that...
Arguably, he might be S+.
Yeah. I do think... and I know a lot of people talk... And a lot of big characters get... And when I say big, I mean bigger threat level characters get a lot of limelight for needing nerfs, right? People talk a lot about Thanos. They talk a lot about, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Malekith.
Which are all valid, by the way. They are all valid,
all
cards.
Still valid. How this guy has just managed to stay so overtuned for so long. Like,
it's also the fact that, if it weren't for, a production issue, he would have been, one of the first releases for the game. He was meant to come out with Wakanda and Venom.
Yep.
And we'll also note that his pack partner is also in S tier.
Which I did see a couple of comments, people saying, she's not as there. One of the main reasons for putting Gwen in S tier was the way, the wording and the way that her webline pull, or whatever it's called, is. And it's not even a character can be targeted. She can do that once. You can play Indomitable. She can do it again. That is a level of egregiousness that shouldn't be in the game. So that was, if that wasn't there, Quinn, I think she's in A. But because of that, she needs a change, right? Because it breaks the game somewhat. Miles is terrible. Miles is very good, but really not good. He needs to lose that throw.
He's terrible to play against. You see Miles across the board and you're just like, oh, great, it's going to be one of these games.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Quinn, like you said, I'd be fine with Web Swing, keeping its extra dice if Webline Kick didn't have a throw on there. I'd be fine with that. 6 dice is fine. Because he's got no rerolls, right? He's got no rerolls in attack, so that's fine. But, it's just I don't know what his extra little thing could be. Like you say, maybe a range 2 place off the back of it. Something like that. Or a push, right? It could be just remove the word throw and put, if the target is size 3 or less, push the target away from you short.
Yeah, even if you want to, keep it with the theme of it being a webline kick, have it be one trigger is a push, another is a follow-up. So it's him knocking them back and then the momentum carrying him forward. I think that would be a cool...
Wild and a crit, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I'd maybe even let him make it omnidirectional as a push. Because it is a web
off them, right?
Yeah. So I think that, but the throw is just too much. And then Venom Blast just needs to be taken out.
If I had my way, I would have just a blanket thing going, these kind of attacks aren't allowed in the game anymore because they're terrible for it.
They're not good for the game. Single one-off cards are fine because you can play around them, you can work around them.
Rhinobbery is annoying, but he only does it once.
Yeah.
Right? And people play Rhino specifically for that card, so it's not as if all these characters become useless if they don't have that ability. If you just give it to them in the form of a tactic card, it's a lot less, oppressive in terms of how it tilts the game state towards a certain style of play.
Yeah. No, I
agree. And obviously, we say this as predominantly attrition players. We acknowledge that, but also, that doesn't change the fact that we don't think it's good for the game.
Yeah, but I do think that, whether you're attrition or you're control focused, I think having characters in the game that can just consistently, Like, the only prerequisite to this is he has 3 power. That
And
is
an
the only
action, like-
that is the only, yeah, and an action, right? That's the only prerequisite. So I don't think anyone really, if they thought about it long and hard, could sit there and say having this in the game is a better experience for everyone.
Well, there is one person who would say that.
His views and opinions. He has no authority here. But yeah, he needs a nerf. He desperately needs a nerf. I would argue in the game right now, Quinn, I'm going to say Miles is maybe the single most egregious character.
I would be inclined to agree, because once again, he exemplifies the thing I don't like about MCP at the moment, which is the way that extracts function as a whole.
And I get that, but I think even if you take that out, just look what he does versus every other 3 threat, and it's not good.
No.
It's not good at all. Okay, Quinn. From one 3-threat leader to another. And he is the guy with the pluckiest... Oh, sorry, an S, Quinn.
S is the stupid character that should have been nerfed a long time ago. There.
Peter Quill, a.k.a. Star-Lord. Long-range damage dealer. Dishes out a bunch of conditions. Leader. Still the only leader to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, you remember when you were talking about Adam Warlock, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if Dracula was in the game. And you're like, he'd never come out before Adam Warlock. Look where we are. Look where we are now.
I know. Winging it, basically you get 3 tokens. You give those tokens to 3 characters. And those characters, during the next round, can spend that token at any point to reroll 2 dice, whether it's a dodge, an attack, or a defensive roll. He's got hit and run. He's got plucky attitude, which does mean if you've had a really bad roll, then you get to re-roll. Don't be caught out by him being a gem bearer. It's a trap. And flight.
Power gem, arguably one of the worst gems.
Get extra power.
Like, I'd argue it's the second worst.
Yeah. Time being the worst.
Yeah, time's worst. Power is the second worst because soul is just better.
Yeah. Soul will, on average, give you more power.
Always give you more power.
It's the fact that power gives you it up front, right? Whereas
it gives you 1 bonus up front, whereas soul, so long as anybody uses anything within 4 of you, gets you 1. And
is it enemy
on top of that?
Is it enemy or
it's enemy specifically, but still, even then, like,
yeah. Really good leader. Why is he a good leader? Well, he's a 3-threat.
he's a 3-threat and he's got a good leadership, right?
Yeah. With some, he's also a leader that's more of a back point holder. With a hit and run. So it does mean that he can get himself out of trouble. The longer your leader lives, the longer you have the leadership to be able to do things.
He arguably fills a role that you are less likely to want to splash for in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also means you can very, very easily take big characters. Basically, any character you want to play, you can put in Guardians and they will be better than what they are out of Guardians, because they get rerolls. So big hitting characters that you want to do huge amounts of damage with, characters like Ghost Rider, who are a bit more of a scalpel, and they take clever work to be able to make them play. I heard somebody from WTC has come up with this new idea of playing a Ghost Rider in Guardians. I did see that in a write-up.
Oh, that sounds like a really good idea.
I think he could work quite well in Guardians. So I really like Star-Lord Quinn. Now, he's not egregious in any way, shape, or form with what he does himself.
No.
His egregiousness comes from the fact that he's a 3-threat and he can take anyone, right?
He's a 3-threat in a faction that has 2 very good 2-threats.
2 threats in there as well, yeah. And 1, 2, 3 threats, 3 threats, something like that. Like a lot of low threat characters, meaning that you can very easily take some high threat characters. So I think
you don't see him splashed anywhere.
Oh God, no.
Immediately.
No, I mean, I would say as a splash character, Rocket is better.
Oh yeah, let's put it this way, Rich, because you are like the Resident Guardians player. I'd argue you're the Resident Guardians player of the internet as a whole. Like, I think you're just the Guardians guy.
I have been known.
Let's say that we put Wing It as a leadership on Groot, right? Let's say that leadership is somehow transferred over to Groot, and now we have Star-Lord without that leadership.
Star-Lord doesn't get played.
Like, would you still even play him in Guardians? Like, you just wouldn't, right? No. Like, if he did not have that leadership, he just wouldn't see play.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because you would just take Groot and Rocket and then whoever else. Yeah, he's perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. His leadership is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. He's not quite at that Steve level, Steve, where it's like, you know, really bad character tacked on.
Equally, old Star-Lord was much worse than old Steve.
This is very true as well.
I'll throw away a tactic card for some rerolls. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, that wasn't very good. I think he's perfectly fine. His leadership is heavy lifting on this.
There's a reason it's like the biggest chunk of text on his card, right?
Yeah. He's also a 6 stamina on his front.
Which I think is helpful.
Which is quite nice. Elemental Blast can give out multiple conditions: bleed, shock, slow, and stun. Yeah. Which again is quite nice, but you're never looking at that, are you, and going, "Oh, I could put him in New Avengers, and he can get to do low." Like, and it's no, like just no.
Without that leadership, he's just like slightly better Hawkeye.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you,
and I think that just speaks to how bad Hawkeye is.
Yeah. But with the leadership Quinn, because he does have it, he's definitely in B tier.
Yeah.
But
I think he has to be low B tier because the only thing keeping him there is his leadership.
It is. Like, it's going to be very interesting when a Warlock or a whoever else comes out and is the second leader.
Dragon or Cosmo or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I could see Nova being a leader.
I could see Nova being a leader.
That they're not, but
I don't know if they did or not. But
easy leader.
I still think he does more work than others. He doesn't really have any weaknesses, right? Like, there's like 3s across the board, medium move, 6 stamina. Like, so there's nothing.
Plucky Attitude works on everything.
Plucky Attitude works on everything, so that puts him slightly above the curve. So I think he's also a back point holder as well, which there is value in that. But that job can often be done by a 2-threat.
A rocket, yeah.
Right. But, you know, I think he's better than Hood. I mean, one-on-one he destroys Beast. But I think overall,
of specific defensive weaknesses, right?
But I think overall he's probably slightly worse than Beast. That feels about fair.
You know what I'd like to see from the power gem?
Go on.
Remove the you get an extra power thing because it's awful, right? Make Soul Gem the thing that gives you extra power. That gives it its own niche in the gems. Power Gem, what is it typically used for when you see it like actually in use in comics?
Well, he gets to do big punches, doesn't he?
It destroys things, right? It's an offensive thing. I think if the power gem was just anyone carrying this gem adds an extra dice to all its attacks, boom, that's worth a threat.
Yep.
Suddenly, you've got a four threat Star-Lord who starts with 2 power every turn, and he's got a 6 dice builder and an 8 dice spender. He's actually pretty interesting as a 4. Like, you'd actually consider putting a gem on a character, which is something you almost never do outside of 2 specific characters, 3 if you're counting Black Swan.
Well, I think that's what we've always said as well, isn't it? That gems don't increase baseline stats, and baseline stats are what often
determines threat.
They are always a determining factor in threat. And, outside of reality, because that, whilst it doesn't increase baseline stats, it makes them better because you count a single skull. And B stands for, Quinn?
Blue Sky, because we don't call him Mr.
We're just going to drop the Mr., are we? Okay.
We're friends. We don't address him as Mr.
Aurora Monroe next, Quinn, a.k.a. Storm. I would argue one of the characters with the most text on her card of any 3-threat character in the game. That's a lot of text.
Yeah. And also argue very similar to Star-Lord with regard to how she ends up looking without that leadership.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that was with his leadership lifted him up, right? Her leadership's going to lift her up. X-Men Gold, once per round, you may use this leadership ability during an allied character's activation. If it is not holding an objective token, good work, AMG. If you do,
you fixed it.
I hate this bit. If you do, the active character may spend 1 power. If it does, it's like just say you can spend 1 power and do this, and you could remove so much text.
You remove like a line from it.
Basically, spend its power, and you get to bump range 1 off another character within range 2. Right? That is how it works. It is exceptionally good. Early doors, being able to get somebody up the board, being able to do the midline extract plays. It's pretty darn nice because you might be thinking, well, you're spending a power rich, but first class exists. So they get to interact for free. So that's kind of how all that works. And then the other part, if an enemy character is not within range 2 when it's attacking an allied character, they can reroll 1 defense die. Solid leadership, Quinn. Stats don't lie, and stats say it's pretty darn good. The problem is, other than Tempest, which is a throw, the rest of her card isn't very good.
She did get a bit of a boost with the Storm going to 2 power, from what I recall. Because it
used to be 3.
In the same way that Iron Man went down to 2, she went down to 2, which I think helps.
Especially attack action, because it accounts to... Because she's got the beam 3 and the area 2.
Yeah.
My problem is, if Storm is making range 2 attacks, Storm is not long for this world.
No.
Because she goes down very, very easily against throws, against Mystic, and against physical attacks.
I'd also be keen to address the fact that, like, this isn't what we wanted for Storm, is it?
No.
We
not
did
at
not
all.
want 3-threat Storm. We wanted Storm
Omega level
in everything, where she is like the fight ender, right?
Yeah, and I think that's...
we'll eventually see a version like that from AMG, like a big 5-threat spooky, goddess of the
I am the god, like, from the cartoons, right, where she calls down,
And it'd be like white suit Mohawk Storm, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm imagining in terms of model.
Yeah,
but like putting that aside and like not letting that bias show through. As a 3, she's got potential. She's just missing a little bit of something,
Yeah, she absolutely is. I would say overall, Quinn, because we're comparing her against. She's got a couple of things that we're going to compare her against. First of all, the other leaders in X-Men. She has, I would say, probably the best leadership of the three.
Yeah,
irrespective of the play style that you want to play.
In terms of like a game plan you can build around, it is by far and away the most consistent and therefore best.
Yes. She is also the lowest cost of the three X-Men leaders, which gives you more flexibility to be able to do more things with other characters.
Splashes, whatever it may be.
On the flip side, she isn't as good at the other stuff versus some of the other characters, right? Or versus some of the other leaders. If you compare her directly with Star-Lord, who we've just done, I would say as a 3-threat, she is probably better. If you were to take the two leaderships away, she is probably better overall than Star-Lord. And I would also say her leadership, while Star-Lord is good, her leadership, like you say, Quinn, is something you can build around and use it to gain an advantage early doors, causing your opponent to have to catch up, right? Guardians versus Storm X-Men, Guardians are playing catch up in that matchup. Hey, see what I did there? And I just think overall she's probably does a little bit more with that Tempest. She's got some beams, she can dish out shock. Although I think Star-Lord can also dish out shock as well.
Like if she ends up in a situation where maybe she's been like dazed and she's just woken up and flipped, if she wants to just dump a bunch of power into 6 dice, beam 3 ice blizzards, she might get some real work done.
8 dice hurricane.
8 dice hurricane, also an option.
Which is can be pretty good. Each character with flight suffers a damage. Could that be an anti-Asgard thing? I don't know. Maybe. It is only after all attacks are resolved. Okay. I thought it was after each attack is resolved. Enemy characters with flight suffer 1 damage.
They don't take 1 for every attack made. That would be ridiculous.
That would be brutal. But I think she is, like I say, a better 3-threat than Star-Lord. I think she's not as good as some of the others, but the leadership pulls her up quite a lot. Like it does a lot. The question is, Quinn, does the leadership pull her up and out of B tier, or is it not quite good enough?
Personally, for me, I think she's very high B tier, but I could equally see anyone's argument for an A tier. I'll let you be the deciding vote in this, because I think, for me, she's a high B, but for a lot of people, she'll be an A, right? And it'll be one of those things, of personal preference is what factors into that decision.
Yeah. I'm just re-looking at that bottom end of A, top end of B.
Would you splash Storm over Zola? Because I think that is the crux of the matter, is would you do that?
But would I splash?
That's a situation where you're taking that leadership away. It's A tier for me is independent of your leadership, you are good enough to go somewhere else.
Because there are characters in there who we don't splash, right? Iron Man doesn't get splashed.
But the argument for his placement there was that he should be more often, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Just because it's not a trend we see in the game and the meta as it is, doesn't mean that they aren't worthy of that consideration, right? And the question is, much like lifting Mjolnir, is Storm worthy of that splash tier? I'm okay with that.
I think there feels about right.
Yeah. I think without that leadership, she's much lower down in that B tier. But,
and I would always say, Quinn, right? Like the bottom 3 of any one and the top 3 of any other that are adjacent. There's always, but what about this situation and this situation and whatever else? But yeah, but amazing leadership that unlocks so much. But again, isn't egregious. I don't think it's egregious anymore.
I think because it got changed to like require power, and then also the ring, it got changed from cover to a reroll.
Yeah.
That was a huge difference, because rather than being like a guaranteed success on anything that wasn't, you suddenly actually, once again,
it's a chance.
Like a lot of these things that we, call out as things we don't like at the game, it adds an element of chance to it. It's not a guaranteed thing, like an extract drop, for example.
Yeah. She weirdly doesn't have a tactics card. But she's from an age where tactics cards weren't really a thing for 3 threats, wasn't she?
She's from an age where tactic cards were more universal when they were released, like Bitter Rivals and Med Pack and stuff like that. They were more generic rather than focused as they are now in that direction change OMG took.
Yeah. And B-Quinn is for...
blessings and boons to all her followers. Because she helps them all out with that leadership, doesn't she?
She definitely does, yeah. Supergiant next, Quinn. Interesting one. Lots of I think it took us a while to work it out because she's got a lot of things. But actually, I mean, she's just Black Order, I want to say. Just Black Order.
Lovely model.
Oh, gorgeous model. 134, which may sound weird, but she has a whole bunch of things where she can't take any more than 1 damage. But if she does take damage, she drops everything. Gains power when an enemy rolls crits, which is fine. And also the Soul Bearer, which is... And, yes, she has Devour Mind. She is the only character in the game who can just... Oh, no. They've got to be injured, haven't they? Yeah, they've got to be injured.
Yeah.
So she can one-shot a character, but on 8 dice, costing 8 power, she needs a crit, wild, hit, fail.
It feels like they wanted to do far too many things with this character. Like, when you read through it and you're pulled in so many different directions with regard to, what the hell this character is supposed to do.
Yeah, also a short move.
Short move on a small base. It's the Mysterio problem, but she doesn't have anything to help her move, whereas Mysterio does have tricks and traps.
Yeah.
She's got, a potential range 5 interact with civilians. She can, stop pushes. She's pulled in so many different directions, and I don't think any of it helps her.
Yeah.
Especially for, a 3 threat. Much in the same way that Heimdall feels like he should have been a higher threat to achieve more of what he wants to do.
I think she should have been as well.
The same argument could be made for Supergiant, right?
Yeah.
She's just weird.
4, maybe even 5 if they want to keep her to, being able to do all the stuff.
Yeah, she's in a very strange place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think given, what she is in comics and stuff, it was always going to be difficult to, represent that as a character card. But, yeah.
And also, Devastate Intellect, it doesn't deal damage. They just lose power instead. And,
if you go for that attack and it's I didn't get the Devour Mind... let's say you only roll, 1 wild in it, and you're just oh, great, you've lost a bunch of power, and you've got stun. It's not terrible, but you don't want to spend 8 power to do it.
No. Well, because you probably end up losing, on average, you will lose more power than they will.
Yeah.
playing this attack. And I think...
I'd argue, like, 9 times out of 10, they will physically be unable to lose more power than you did.
Well,
because they're probably not going to have 8 power, and even if they do, you're probably not getting 8 through.
Yeah, let's leave her there. She's going in D tier. The question is whereabouts, Quinn.
She can't kill herself.
She can't kill herself, therefore she goes just above clear. D.
It's for denied seppuku by Thanos. Because at least Clea can kill herself.
Oh, Anthony next, Quinn, a.k.a. Taskmaster.
I like Tony Masters.
Definitely a splashable character.
I mean, it's almost like
he's designed to do this. So Rogue Agent, which is huge, Quinn. For a lot of affiliations, having a character that can do that. He is also part of Crimson, Hydra, and S.H.I.E.L.D. He has got very... What he does isn't flashy, but he is consistent. So 6 stamina, so already above the curve. Martial artist, which is nice. If he's being attacked once and then gets attacked again, he gets 2 extra dice across the board, and it's just innate. Photographic reflexes, so he gets to clap you back. But if you've attacked him already, it goes from 4 dice up to 6. Sword strike, fine, like with a bleed. Shield throw, he learnt. I told you my theory, Quinn, didn't I, that every 2 years they're going to release a little update to Taskmaster. So like he could get a push on his sword strike next year because he's learning as the game goes on. But he does actually now generate power from his shield throw, which
by
is
the
really
time
nice.
MCP ends, he'll have Cosmic Portal, is what we're saying.
Yeah. And then Mnemonic Technique, Quinn. 2 power for what can effectively be up to an 8 dice attack where your opponent can't modify dice.
Well, it can be more than 8 dice, because Carnage exists.
No, does Carnage have 5?
Yeah, he's 5/1/1.
Oh, okay. But Carnage is never in the game.
Here's a quick spoiler for the 4th threat tier list. Carnage is D tier.
But it's so good. I've had Tony go toe to toe with a Logan, and he's beaten him.
He's really good into that style of character, who's like all about peace and stuff like that. Because he just goes, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because generally those characters want to be up close and personal within 2, and he does a lot of work, Quinn. He is splashed about a lot, but again, he does it in a way where he doesn't feel egregious. He's a great point holder, a great mid-point holder. Yes, he can't get back on. He doesn't have aggressive or anything like that, but he is very difficult to take down.
I'd argue if you gave him that kind of like ability, he would then become overtuned.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But I think he's absolutely solid, Quinn. And he can help out a lot when it comes to squad building. So he can do a lot of work from that side as well. Although less and less affiliations don't have a core of 3 characters that you want to take. He is still there. Winterguard, we salute you, Taskmaster, for your work in Winterguard, because they only had 2 affiliated characters for a long time.
He's a member of Hydra, not that Hydra care if their characters are affiliated, because their cards are all terrible.
But yeah, he's just solid.
Yeah.
Where do you think he goes, is the question.
It's somewhere near Proxima, I think.
Oh, you think he goes as high up as A tier?
I think he deserves to be an A tier. Like, A tier is splashable, consistent. He is both of those things, you know? Like, and I think that's the end-all be-all of it. Like, he's very good for a 3.
He is very good, isn't he?
And he's
like, I don't think he's like Domino good or Lizard good or Sam good, but he could be Proxima good, or he could be not quite Proxima good. I think he's better than Tony. He is the superior Tony.
Yeah. Let's put him there. And A stands for?
Already learned that move. Wow.
Oh, Fred Duke's next Quinn. Brotherhood of Mutants. He's also Famine or Pestilence in the Servants of Apocalypse. I know there's a lot of love for Blob in Apocalypse, in Servants of Apocalypse. People seem to like to play him a lot as, I can never remember which one it is, but one of the ones that he can be.
Well, Famine's the one that you always take in any Apocalypse squad because it's the place. But I think people might run him as Pestilence.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he can get in with a Thunderous Splash and then I think
that's it, yeah. 4-2-2, so slightly under the curve because, only 8 defense dice in total, but he is a size 3, he's got 6 stamina, meaning there are just less characters that can throw him and push him. However, nothing can move the Blob. This character can only
a bunch of things.
Except nothing can move the Blob, Quinn, apart from things that can move the Blob. This character can be pushed or thrown as a result of attack special rules, but can be pushed or thrown or placed as a result of anything else. I hate names like this.
Right. If we take the first 3 letters of nothing, add them to the end of can, and then replace the rest of nothing with attacks, it's correct. Attacks cannot move the Blob.
No attacks can move the Blob. Yeah. Actually, doesn't somebody have an attack now? Doesn't Shang-Chi have an attack? I don't know. He pushes and then places off them, or does he place them and then play? I can't remember which way around it is. When Shang-Chi...
Shang-Chi's thing is that he pays power after the attack to do the thing, so I don't actually know how that interacts.
Okay. Yeah, but either way, there's lots of stuff that can move the Blob. Strike is pretty standard with a size 3 push. Thunderous Splash has got explosive force on it. You place yourself within 1 before damage is dealt, so it's a nice way of being able to move around. Size 3 interactive terrain feature, costs 3, but it's medium, which is quite nice. And then ha 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 ha. I think it's just 3 ha ha ha's. That tickles.
It is.
If his character would suffer damage from an attack, it may use this superpower, reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. After the attack is resolved, if the attacking character is within 3, Blob may push them away. So it costs, usually when they cost, they can be 0, but because he's got the extra little thing on the end, which is the push, then it does cost him a power, but it just keeps him alive that little bit longer.
I mean, it's better than a Hulkbuster because he doesn't have to prepay.
This is very true.
Also, going quickly back to the Shang-Chi thing, I believe, based on how this is worded, Shang-Chi could still push him because it's the result of attack special rules. It's not on the attack. It's a superpower after the attack. Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of things that can move the Blob is what we're saying.
Yeah.
I don't like the Blob. I'm just gonna say it.
Whoa! We're not gonna let you indulge in self-hate here, Rich. I won't allow it. As your friend.
Wow. Colleague.
Acquaintance.
Acquaintance. Sorry. Yes. I don't know what it is about him. I've just never really clicked with him.
I think he can be good. Like he needs a specific home for him to be good. Like, for example, he's good in Panther 2 because people attack him,
Yeah,
he pushes them, it triggers that leadership an additional time because it's, out of your own activations, that kind of thing.
that's fair,
But like,
actually. Yeah.
he can do some work. It's just if he runs into someone who can in fact move him, which is a lot of things,
A lot of things can move him.
He's gonna struggle to get back in.
And also, how many bigger than range 3 energy attacks are there in the game? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of characters who from range can just take him out.
I'd like if he could reduce damage from anything to a minimum of 1.
Yeah.
And then there was an additional stipulation that if it was from an attack within 3, he could also do the push. Something like that, He just... Yeah, he's a little lackluster. He does have a team-up card with Toad. Not that I think you play it all that often.
No, and isn't it called like the blob and the like?
No, it's called Leapfrog.
Leapfrog, that's the one. Yeah, I mean, there's some nice things about it. It's board wide.
It gets him a bit of extra movement, which is something.
Short advance and a strike. So you'd hope that the 2 power you pay, you'd at least get 1 back on Blob. Like, it can also have a push in there as well, which, again, is quite nice. But, yeah. He's not a bad character. I think, but I just think, for me personally, I've never been a big fan. I just always found somebody who does what he does a little better. But, like I say, Wakanda's an interesting one.
Do you think he needs help, though, is the question. And I'm not...
No, I don't think he does. I think he's fine.
Sure of my answer to that.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I just think he's not my... I like my 3 threats to be able to murder things, Quinn. And,
same.
I mean, he can do that, but he goes down far too quickly. Energy and Mystic, he just really struggles with.
I wouldn't have hated like a 3 energy on him or something.
4-3-2 would have been fine. It'd have kept him at that 9, and then he can reduce as well. Like, yeah. But again, I don't think needing or potentially could get away with an extra 1 energy defense is enough to knock him down a tier. I think he's B. I think he's probably low end of B.
Yeah, I'd argue like I'd probably be more likely to play Shocker than I would be Blob. So I think that in turn determines where he goes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think even in affiliation, I mean, his Brotherhood. I mean, Apocalypse. I mean, probably the best Apocalypse I've seen played is Amph.
Yeah, which does not use Blob.
And it is very different to anybody else, to any other Apocalypse I've seen being played. Yeah. Maybe we have to get Amph on, actually, for a video and talk about it, because it is very good indeed. But yeah, B Quinn is for Don't You Dare. You're not having it because his name's The Blob.
No, B is for Buffet Lover.
Okay, I'll allow it. Original Human Torch Quinn, aka Jim Hammond.
Look, if your superhero names has to stipulate that you are the original something, it means you're the much less popular version and therefore worse.
What is it Tywin says? Anyone who has to say they're the Quake King.
Any man who must say he is the original is no true original.
Yeah, 3-4-2, very susceptible to Mystic.
Yeah. He's a robot that doesn't have the robot things.
Yeah, because he's an android, right? Is the thing.
So is Vision. Vision's immune to bleed and poison.
Yeah, no, that was my point. Is that like that's the thing?
I thought you were like counting that as a thing that's different to a robot, and therefore. But yeah, no, it's just.
Too hot to handle.
It's pretty good.
I
Because of controlled burn, it's a lot easier to do than I think it first appears.
Yeah. Choose an enemy character within 2. The chosen character drops 1 asset token. Like
That's a reasonable drop.
I think that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Is it fine?
That is what drops should be, I think.
But 3 power, no action?
3 power, no action, but he has to be within 2, and you're dropping 1 specific thing. If it was drop all asset tokens, could be egregious. But because it's not, I think it's okay.
I think it also feels less egregious because it's attached to a character that is not the best.
Yeah, not the best defensively, isn't like incredibly speedy and therefore able to run away from everyone. Like the best he's getting is 2 medium moves away.
Yeah.
Or a shield mobile if you really want to invest.
Yeah, because he is in shield. Is he just shield? I think I want to say.
Just shield. I want to say.
Yeah, just shield. Does he have a card?
Yeah, he's got the energy attack card for shield.
Let me have a quick look. Is it Jim Hammond? Is that the name on the card?
It's specifically
there we
Jim
go.
Hammond because we're gonna get so many versions of this character.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His card is just shield as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is really good if you want to play attrition shield.
Yeah.
3 power, you do a range 3 incinerate burst, and then anytime anyone that round attacks someone who's got incinerate, you roll 2 extra dice for energy attacks. Pretty
It's not
good.
bad, is it?
You can do like an energy heavy shield and have that be your game plan. Is it the best game plan in shield? Probably not, but it's not the worst.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah,
and
like
fun's
if you play
always
him in
good.
Iron Man Shield and like go heavy on energy attacks with like the Black Widow and stuff, could be pretty good for a broad team.
Yeah. So Jim Hammond Quinn, the original Human Torch, where do you think he sits?
He's somewhere in B, like low B, I think. Let's be honest, he's worse Pyro.
He is worse Pyro. I'm just kind of going through. Is he better or worse than Iceman? Too hot to handle. Too hot to handle bumps him up, I feel.
Also, I think his tactic card is actually playable, whereas Iceman's isn't, which also helps.
Yeah. Is he better than Ant-Man? I think he is.
I don't know if he is. I do also have a bias of wanting to have fire and ice next to each other.
I know. I think that feels about right.
Like Ant-Man has like the mobility, stuff like that. Like, you know, he's got a little something.
He does. And B is for
Beat Boop, I'm a robot.
Cool. Brunhild.
No, beat Boop, I'm a bleeding robot.
I'm a bleeding robot. Brunhild next, Quinn, aka Valkyrie. 3s across the board, 6 stamina, size 2, medium move. She's Asgardian, she's got Warrior of Legend. She has a charge for 2. She can do the charge, just do it. Asgardian Might. It's only size 2, but that's a lot of characters. Can't quite do that turn 1. So she can't double move and throw anymore, but she can.
Unless she charges in, gets 3 power off the charge.
I was just gonna say, but she, there's other ways that she can do it. Strike feels a little bit flavorless, but when you consider you can Warrior of Legend your Strike, that's the reason why.
I wouldn't hate a bleed trigger on it.
I wouldn't hate a bleed trigger on it.
Because every other sword in the game does bleed, right?
Well, Dragonfang does bleed, which is her spender, which is fine. With a flurry,
people often forget a flurry.
It's
You
not
may
a
make
crit
a strike.
wild, though. Like,
Crit Wild makes it rougher, but people often forget that you don't have to target the same character.
Yeah.
So you can daze or KO someone with the Dragon Fang and then turn around and punch somebody else, which is quite nice. No tactics cards, of course, Quinn. This is back in the day where 3 threats didn't really get tactics cards that much.
Was month 3 of the game existing, I want to say.
I think so, yeah.
I think it went core box, Wakanda, Asgard.
Yeah, something
Then it
like
went
that.
Guardians, I think.
Yeah, they were early, weren't they, Guardians?
Yeah. Well, because we had 2 months of Guardians, because we had Guardians 1, then Guardians 2 with the first bit of Black Order.
Black
then
Order.
Black Order
Then
with Thanos.
Then Thanos, yeah. Wasn't Green Goblin in the mix somewhere around there as well, or was he a little bit later?
I think he was a little bit later.
Venom was early.
Venom was released too. He was with Wakanda because Goblin came out with Web Warriors, but Web Warriors were meant to come out much earlier.
Much earlier than the yeah. I like Quinn. She's solid.
Yeah.
Even with the nerf,
she is the 3 threat of choice in Asgard. Let's be honest.
100%. Yeah. She is also in A-Force and Defenders. Don't really see her in Defenders that much. I don't feel like.
I think that's partially because people are just missing a trick. Like,
You think?
I think she's fallen by the wayside a bit and been forgotten, like, in the sands of time.
I do think a character who gets a nerf, people just assume then they're bad. I do think there is a bit of bias around that, but I think she's good. I think she's solid.
Yeah.
She's nothing flashy. She doesn't feel egregious. She doesn't get splashed really anywhere, I would say.
But is she worthy? And I think she is.
Is she worthy of a splash? Is she worthy of a splash?
Because let's be honest, I think the only thing keeping her from being splashed is how good Zemo is. Because they have very similar roles. In a world where Zemo gets addressed and is no longer S tier, does Valkyrie rise into that A tier?
Potentially, yeah. But
I
Zemo does exist.
I know Zemo does exist. Does she do enough to just eke out a bottom of A placement? Just, you know, she sat there waiting, ready for that day where Zemo falls.
I want to put her in A, but I want to do something first.
Are you gonna? Oh,
I
thought you were gonna go for knocking Zola into B, which I would have probably been okay with.
I do also feel like that.
I'd argue Zola in and of himself is better than Storm.
I'm okay with that.
It's just the leadership is what bumps. Like, the leadership is the deciding factor there, and I think because of that, Zola goes above.
But I feel like she probably does do enough. But I feel like weirdly, and I know it's a different role, but it's like they're both very similar. Like 3 threats, they've got the throws. She has obviously the character throw, which Luke doesn't. I'm happier now.
Yeah, there we go.
And then that.
Yeah, like, I'm not even sure Encanto should be in A, but that, I think, is just a bit of your bias.
It's a bit of shining new toy bias.
It was my bias. I think him being in A is your bias.
And now Quinn is for...
Ascending to the Halls of Valhalla.
Ascending to the Halls of Valhalla. Oh, Ophelia. You're breaking my heart. Viper. Long move. So that's a thing. Stealth.
So far, we're not doing much better than 2-threat Widow.
I mean, so Poison Blade, fine. Like,
Cool.
it's fine, right?
It's a basic strike with a bit of a kicker.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Assassin's Pistol. Why not just give her rapid fires?
Because it does stun. Ooh.
And then Viper Strike, that's okay.
The fact Viper Strike on the Venom trigger gives out stun makes it really iffy as to why the pistol also does stun.
Yeah.
Like, surely they should do different conditions.
And I also feel like Venom should be more like I don't know.
I think it'd be cool if Poison Blade, because it's a sword, right? It's like on the model, it's a sword. Swords, in my mind, should have a wild bleed. That is what a sword does. And because it's a poisoned blade, I think it'd be cool if it had a damage trigger for poison. Because obviously, if you've not been damaged by it, that means that it's not entered your bloodstream or your system in any way. Therefore, you can't be poisoned by it.
I like that.
I think that could be like a cool little buff for her. A little something something.
Displacement ring. To play, but it's a long move character.
Yeah, range 2 plays isn't all that important.
And then Coiled Serpent is just. When this character is targeted by. Yeah, but they worded it differently for some stupid reason. Instead of rolling dice,
it's martial prowess, but it's got a different name. Like that.
I tell you what, this does do, Quinn. Well, I don't actually. Look, let me ask you the question. Does it circumvent incinerate? No. Okay.
No, because incinerate is specifically you roll 1 less defense dice, and that's calculated after
you've built you build your pool, and then incinerate kicks in effectively. So like fine.
It would have been cool if maybe that had a poison on it. If you're going to give it a different name, if it does manage to do damage, it gives them poison as well. Anything. Something.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine somebody losing to this character. That's the thing I'm...
Yeah, I have to imagine it. You've lived it.
I also just think poison doesn't do a lot in the latter parts of the game.
It can be impactful on certain characters, but... Like, it's annoying when you have to deal with it, because you're just like, oh, God, I want more power. But, like, it's... She's just... Like, she doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? Like, she just needs a little tweak. Because long move, 5 stamina, 3s across the board, perfectly fine. 5 dice builder, perfectly fine. You know me, Quinn, I always like the option, flat 1 or, gainer, a standard gainer. Viper Strike feels like,
6 dice for 3 feels bad.
Could it...
In modern day?
Could it not be a stagger? Could Venom not be a stagger? And the idea being that, like, you've incapacitated... the character, that character for a period of time. And all of a sudden, I think, actually, that's a little bit better.
Well, what if rather than, like, Venom, it had, like, the potential for a flurry on it? So, like, she runs up to someone, she, like, knee slides past them, like, hits them with the blade, ends up within 1 with the placement, and then, swings at someone else, and maybe she's, like, knocking, like, a couple poisons onto people. Or, like, even if she just had a flat thing that was, like, she re-rolls against people with poison.
Yeah.
And, like, you just make her the 3-threat poison character, and, like, you make that her thing.
That could work.
It just served to give her some form of identity, which is what I think she's lacking at the minute.
So, I am going to throw a curveball out here, Quinn.
Okay.
I think she needs. I think she needs her card changing,
Okay.
but I would be happy if most of the text and the numbers were as they are. I just think it's the things that she does and gives out that are like feel wrong, and like you say, giving stun out twice.
Yeah. Like you're removing you remove the redundancy in terms of things she can do, and I think like I said, I think something more towards her identity around poison, I think would be because then she's a Hydra option, and then if you're taking her in Strucker Hydra, Strucker has the poison bubble he can like the poison burst he can do,
Yeah.
which then actually maybe gives her a home in that regard.
No tactics card as well.
Yeah.
Which again, she's an old character. We don't expect it.
All the character, if they were to do like a big refresh and like we're gonna address all the drops in the game, she'd be prime candidate for someone to get a drop card.
Yeah, I think so. And up against, I mean, Cabal and Hydra are 3 threats. Like, so much competition in those affiliations.
Zola, Strucker, Tony,
Zemo.
like
yeah,
time
it's a little rough, isn't it? The question is, Quinn, is she D tier or does she have is there enough on there that keeps her out of it?
I think because she's lacking an identity, she goes in D. But let's be honest, I think you can get more work out of Frank in a game than you can her.
Yeah. But I do think, I almost feel like we need like an extra bit on here, which is like D tier is great concept, poorly executed, and then like F tier is just rework. Like this character, it just doesn't work.
I mean, who in D tier doesn't just need a rework?
Well, I think, yeah, they all do. Well, they don't.
Because like rework isn't necessarily like a conceptual rework. It's just they need their their cards stripped down to the foundations, and they need to be built up from new. And I think that is what all of those characters need.
No, see, I don't think. I think, like with Frank Castle, for example, I like the idea of the tokens, and then you can spend them and you can blow up buildings and like. So that's in there and it's in his card. It's just poorly executed.
What they do in his card, right? Like that isn't the concept of those tokens. The concept you're talking about is him having tokens at all, not tokens that he does what he does with.
Yeah.
Like that to me is something that would be a ground up thing, not a this character happened to have tokens, let's do another thing with tokens. You know?
No, but I meant as in like the tokens representing, because he avenges, right? He takes down people that hurt people that he is friends with and family and stuff. So that's what the tokens represent in my mind. But yeah, I don't know what we're on. And D for Viper is
doesn't have an identity.
There we go. Vulture, Adrian Toombs. I hate this character.
I love this character.
Why do I hate him?
Dear.
Abduct. He just kept moving my Hulk away. And it was really annoying because I had to place and then move and then get a single attack off. That was it. And then when he did attack, he was terrible. Raptor Strike, fine. Bleed is nice. Skyline, the fact it's guaranteed and the fact it's before damage is very nice. Hit and run.
Yes, it's 4 power, but it's 8 dice.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's equal to. It's actually better. Well, no, it costs one less than Groot, but it doesn't have the auto stagger on it. And Groot is any size. This is only size 3, but again, that's fine. Hit and run, perfectly good. Bit of a scientist, so gets the extra power. 3s across the board. 5/5, I want to say, Quinn. Yeah, 5/5. Medium base, medium move. A great tactics card. Really, really good. Is it under Vulture or is it Tombs?
Someone. I think it's
Vulture. Rejuvenation.
Yeah.
Why is the Vulture on this card? Quite clearly, very different or much younger than the character on the model itself.
Right.
Have you seen it?
The name of the card, Rich.
Yeah, rejuvenation. Yes, I get it.
Because he's got the whole thing of like he steals people's youth off them, doesn't he?
Yeah, maybe. Vulture may play this card during his activation. This character and all allied characters within 2 remove all special conditions. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty darn good. I like they kept it to 2. That feels right.
Yeah.
Especially as it's free, by the way. It doesn't cost anything. I think it's stapled to him, Quinn, if I'm being honest with you. I
don't think you take every game you take him, but like, if he's in a roster, it's probably going with him.
Yeah, that's more what I was meaning, but not necessarily every game. I like Vulture, Quinn. I know you like Vulture a lot more. Where do you think he
Vulture.
goes?
That's what you started this out with.
I hate playing against Vulture, but he's a good character.
I told everyone he was good, and everyone went, "Oh no, he's terrible." He's fine. He's like probably either side of Groot, I'd say.
Yeah.
Probably just above Groot, because, like, he's got that mobility to him.
Yeah, that Groot definitely doesn't have. I'd argue Groot's card is slightly better.
I'd argue it's much better. Range 4.
Yeah, range 4, isn't it? Yeah. It costs 3 power, by the way, not 2. But even so, 3 power for, potentially removing 10 damage from the board. If you're 5 wide and everyone's within range 4, pretty good. Oh, James Rhodes. And
B for Birdman.
Birdman, yes.
Get it? That's a double thing. You get it?
It's a double thing because he played the thing in the thing and then did the thing.
Yeah. References.
Yeah. I know things. Hey, I understood that reference. Okay, Quinn. I feel sorry for James Rhodes. He had his moment in the sun, didn't he? He had his time that he shined.
Prophecy wasn't an Asgard card, yeah.
Yeah. War Machine. I mean, Metal Storm. It's nice. Like, it should just be a flat gainer. It should be a gain 1 power at the end of each attack. With bleed, that'd be absolutely fine. Barrage again is fine. It's 2 attacks.
It'd be nice if it was a gainer.
I think because it does a second one, then yeah. But he can kill himself, Quinn, can't he? And we have a thing about characters
that can kill themselves.
Yeah. Which when you as you said,
argue like he's very barren in the superpower department.
He really is. Well, he has none.
He's got damage reduction. That's it.
Like he's got 2 innate, titanium armor plating, and flight. Yeah. Just lackluster. Like, even if Empty the Clip didn't do the damage to him, he's still a little bit lackluster. The fact he doesn't reduce his own damage from the clip as well makes it even worse. Like maybe rather than suffering damage for each, after this attack is resolved, for each crit rolled, roll a dice, and on a crit wild he takes a damage or something like that.
Or for every crit in the roll, he loses a power. If this character has no power, he takes damage instead.
Yeah, something like that could have been better.
Then that to me then feels like he's depleted, his ammunition, and it's starting to negatively affect the suit.
Affect his suit and everything else. Yeah.
Like I'd argue, remove rocket pods as an attack and just give him an ability called Barrage that maybe lets him double tap in some way.
Yeah.
I think that's
cool. But yeah, definitely a little bit lackluster. Does he have a card? He does.
Yeah, he has one with Danvers where he gets to do husband and wife.
Oh yeah. That's not very good.
If I were to redesign War Machine, not fully redesign him, but change how he is, I do that suggestion I made to empty the clip, make it power loss, potentially damage. Metal Storm becomes 4 dice, but is flat 1 gainer. And then remove rocket pods, give him an ability that is 3 power called Barrage, where he adds 2 dice to his next attack action.
Yeah, so it can go up to a 6 dice.
6 dice beam. If he's catching 3 people in it, he can do it again. He has no mobility, help, so he needs to be in the right place at the right time. And then if he wants to empty the clip, he can do it, and it becomes a viable thing for him to do after the flip, and also bump it up to range 4.
What about, right? What about rather than adding dice, because we've seen that, right? A lot of things have that. What about he has a superpower that is at the end of the modify dice step, he may spend 3 power, 2 power, whatever it is, to re-roll any crits. So he has a chance. It's a risk reward.
I mean, it's almost entirely risk.
Well, it's not taking the damage, is it?
It's not taking the damage, but also you are making a guaranteed success into a 50-50 chance of a success.
Yeah. Or should it just be he suffers 1 damage for each failure in the roll?
Failures would be more interesting, I think.
Because then it feels like that's the risk reward, right? Crits are great, but fails are bad.
Yeah.
But he needs something.
Yeah, he really does.
He really does need something. Like I say, he had his time in the sun.
He's a great model as well.
It's a really nice model. Yeah, really, really nice model. Where do you think he goes, Quinn?
I think he has to end up hanging out with Hawkeye, right? He just needs something doing to him badly.
Still playable, but
I think
very difficult.
It is for characters where if someone plays them against you, you ask them after the game why they play that character, right?
Yeah.
Not in a what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you playing? But it's you want to see the insight as to what made them make that choice.
I think that's fair.
And if someone played War Machine against me, I'd be like, out of interest, why?
Yeah, and D is for don't empty the clip.
D is for doesn't use his legs anymore.
Oh, dearie me. Dearie me. Warlock next, Quinn, a.k.a. Warlock. Comes in the Sunspot box, is part of New Mutants and X-Force, 334. Size 3, medium, I think medium base? Or is he small base? me check. Let me check the tags.
Small base.
Small base. Okay, small base. 5 stamina. He's got some interesting things on his card. TO Talons, power equal to damage dealt. Gives out bleed and poison on a wild.
It's a mega sword.
And I just feel like that's where you start to see the difference between old characters and newer characters, right?
Yeah, there's a disparity.
Buster Cannon, range 4, strength 5. This time it's energy. Flat builder, dishes out shock, which is nice. This might be one of my favourite names of any.
You have to do it in the robot voice as well, by the way.
Self must protect self friend. Range 3, strength 7, cost 4. But when creating the dice pool for this attack, this character may choose an interactive terrain feature of size 3 or less within 3 and destroy it. If it does, it may reroll any number of its attack dice up to the destroyed terrain feature size. And then on a wild, it's a throw.
It's got the trigger off Mel's builder. Oh,
yeah, and it's only 1 dice less. If he's web swung.
Oh no, he's only 2 power more.
Well, yeah. Pretty decent builder, Quinn.
Yeah, I like that it's got the terrain destruction element of it. Like as we'll see in the superpowers, like he's got a lot of stuff around destroying terrain, which is cool.
It's like techno-organic stuff, isn't it? Like he absorbs in the different stuff.
Like,
so.
He reaches out to it, and then it all goes like black and gold or yellow.
And like it's like the Matrix, but going up, and it's yellow, isn't it? Yeah.
It like digitizes back down,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Interactive terrain feature size 3 or less, destroy it, and then you heal equal to the size of the terrain feature.
Pretty good.
I would have liked that to have been an X. Spend 1, size 1, spend 2, size 2. Weirdly, Quinn.
If you make it X, do you then have to make it once per turn?
I was just going to say it has to then be once per turn. I'd never realised this wasn't once per turn. Taking terrain off the board that other characters would throw is not a bad thing. Transmode, virus infection. This character and enemy character within 2 gain the poison special condition. Sorry, this character and other enemy characters. This character and enemy characters within 2 of this character with the poison special condition suffer 2 damage in the order of your choosing. This superpower can only be used once per turn. Having the poison is not a prerequisite for him to take the damage on this. We've seen this before.
Poison.
Yeah. Very, very, very confusing because they do not put I don't know, worded badly. Like I would have put enemy characters with the poison special condition and this character suffer 2 damage. Like that feels like it's how it should have been. Unstable outline when you're defending against mystic or physical, not within 3, add 1 dice, and then immunity to bleed and poison.
You know how we said that Viper doesn't have an identity?
Oh, 100%.
Dripping with identity.
He's dripping, Quinn. He's dripping. I mean, I only know this guy from that 1 or 2 episodes of the original, like last season of X-Men, I want to say, as in like the original run, not the new ones. But even though I know nothing about him, Quinn, reading his card, I know what he is about.
Yeah. He feels like what you remember from that episode. And that is what I think they were going for, and they succeeded.
Yeah, good job, well done. Really nice character. Nice to see some other stuff in there. Perfectly fine with what he does. There is limiting...
Again, like, that virus infection feels like something that could very easily be, like, transplanted onto Viper.
Yeah.
Like, very comfortably.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe you make it like 1 damage, but she doesn't take it, and that kind of,
Yeah.
Just anything.
I think he's fine.
I think he's pretty good. Does he have a card?
Does he have a card? He has self-help. When an allied warlock is dealt damage by an enemy attack, after the attack is resolved, spend 2 power and play this card. The attacking enemy character and all characters within 2 gain the poison special condition. Then Warlock gains 1 power for each character with the special condition within 3 of him. So
pretty good.
It is.
It's not something I take all that often, but it's not terrible.
It'd have been nice if it was he heals 1 for each character within 3.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good.
Like, that would have been a lot nicer. But yeah, I don't feel like it's a card he's going to be taking too much. But I don't think he needs it. He does a lot, right? He's got some self-healing. He can do terrain stuff.
Gives out a decent amount of conditions.
A lot of conditions. Yeah, a lot of conditions. But yeah, I think he's pretty decent, Quinn.
Yeah.
Where do you think he sits?
I want to put him, like, somewhere in that stretch of 4 characters of Chosen of Bast to Danny Rand.
Yeah, he feels like he sits like around here-ish, doesn't he?
Do we put him next to Groot because they both got funny hair?
Do you know what?
And I don't think it's a bad placement as well. I know that's the jokey reason why he's there, but also it feels right.
But he's very similar to Groot.
Yeah.
He does a similar job.
I'd argue that if Rocket didn't exist in the current
Warlock would be better than Groot.
Warlock would be better than Groot, and I think that's the deciding factor between the two.
I would agree. And B is for...
Beep boop.
Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop. Okay, Quinn, we're in the home stretch. 4 characters left to go.
Right, almost part 4.
Almost at the 3-hour mark on this one alone. So that is going to be a lot of hours on 3 threats.
Too many, some might say.
Still complain. Wasp, Janet Van Dyne.
She's just bad.
Yeah, I mean, size change in SmackDown, fine. Like, I just wish they didn't drop everything.
I mean, it makes sense that they drop everything because they're literally the size of ants. But
yeah, but surely they could use the Pym.
Maybe if you added a thing that is like in Tiny Superhero, you take out the can't hold objectives thing from Tiny Superhero, and you make it part of change size. That unless they spend like 2 power for each extract they're holding, they drop them.
Pym Disc is all right. Like the fact that she can throw terrain, medium, it's pretty good. You get to, I believe she gets to reroll defense dice. She does. Yeah. So she can be targeted and then she can transform. So she gets to reroll all her defense dice.
And it's potentially out of range for further attacks.
Out of range for further attacks because of the stealth. 3/2/3 is rough. There's no reason why she should be a 2 energy. Like,
considering that Mars is 3/3/3 and has the same rerolls, but also in affiliation has better ones.
Yeah. Stinger Blast. Stinger Blast is
arguably the best thing on her card
because don't gain power for the damage dealt is quite nice. As in the target character doesn't. And then, Wasp's Fury, medium move, and then a transform. Like, it gets her about a bit. It's just...
I think both Janet and Scott suffer from the fact that they were the first transform characters ever, designed. I think, we've come a long way since, we've got, Emma Frost, who has an entirely different card for when she transforms. We've got, people like Hood.
Yeah.
Are there any characters left now other than these two that have that? Oh, Ms. Marvel.
Ms.
who is
Marvel does. Yeah, Ms.
in the
Marvel does.
same category of being pretty crap. Like,
Yeah.
as far as Transformer characters go, like, yeah, I think we could see a glow up for those two in particular. Like,
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree.
I'd also argue that like she is the worst of the two in that box because Ant-Man, whilst he has a shorter move, has a free placement, which is always going to be better than that long move, I think.
Yeah, they've got the pin particles card, which is fine, but again, it's a one-off thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot. The opportunity cost is quite high, even if the actual cost isn't.
I think it'd be cool if, as little superheroes, they had Hail Hydra. Call it like bigger fish to fry or something dumb like that, where basically, they pay two when targeted. They pick an allied character within two that is a larger size than them, and the attack goes on to them instead. And maybe you do that instead of their rerolls, potentially.
Yeah. They just need something, don't they?
Then they need a fair bit of something, I'd say.
Yeah. I do agree. I do think she is the lesser in that box. You see her sometimes in A-Force, but not a lot.
I think that's going to change because R&D is gone, which means she's no longer really an option for a long move special delivery. It's just Crystal now.
Yeah. Of course, yes, because she's got the... Yeah. So I think because of that, Quinn, she probably doesn't quite make it into the B tier, and I think she does go into C.
She drops into C. And
I think...
better, like, who is she better? Is she bottom of C?
She might be, you know.
Like, I feel like compared to Scott, she like really exemplifies the issues with this kind of transforming character.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And C is for...
Couldn't find a mum in the quantum realm.
Weapon X, James Logan Howlett. This is the 3-threat version because we're doing 3 threats of the Wolverine. 3/2/3, 5 stamina, front and back. This guy, Quinn, I know you're not a fan. I played a game against Mr. Jacob over from the US, Jacob Deaton.
Oh, Deaton, yeah.
And he played a Weapon X spam list against me. He went 6 wide, 7 wide, something like that.
Okay.
And it worked. And it worked quite well. And Weapon X was part of it. And when this guy pops, he can rip through things. The problem is you have to get there. And 2 energy defense is rough. But what I did find is that if you didn't take him down in one shot, he was coming back. Because of that healing factor 3, right? If you leave him alone on 1, healing factor 3 is absolutely brutal. Uncontrollable weapon does a huge amount of damage, especially with that rampage and then that wild abandon. He's got a charge on him again, which is really nice. Adamantium skeleton, as we expect. Savagery protocols. So if he's within 1 of a secure, he adds 2 dice to his attack rolls. He's got a 7 dice builder and a 9 dice spender, which can be absolutely brutal. But he is, again, very, very susceptible to just being taken off the board before he gets to do anything.
I tell you what, I wouldn't hate on this guy anywhere near as much if Exceptional still existed.
Oh, 100%.
If Exceptional still existed, this guy's pretty decent. Because it doesn't, I think he's ass.
I see, and this may be the one that we're going to disagree on the most. Now, I've only played with him 2 or 3 times. I've played against him now 2 or 3 times, and the people I played made much better use. I kind of ignored him a little bit in the first game I played against him, which was absolutely to my detriment. Like, if this guy is on the board, you need to deal with him. Because if you don't, he will murder everything in sight. Sacrifice on this guy, not sacrifice, survival is an amazing card. Because if he's gone down early, round 2, something like that, because I think there is this Weapon X spam list now that's going on. Being able to ensure he survives and then being able to take out a couple of characters next turn with him is pretty darn good.
He just feels like 3-threat Nebula and not in a good way.
No, I think he's a lot better.
Really?
Yeah.
Agree to disagree on that one, I think.
I think he's very good. Now,
Investing
the problem...
3-threat into a character that can never score you points is rough.
He can score points.
I can't.
He can.
No. Please do enlighten me as to how he can score points.
He can score secures, not extracts. That's his only thing. This character cannot
test. He can do flips,
cannot...
I think. No, he can do flips. That's it.
This character cannot pick up, hold, contest, or interact with extract objective tokens.
Specifically calling out extracts for the entire thing.
Yeah, because I think this is for researcher.
Okay.
This is for researcher, right? Because then additionally, whilst he's within one of a secure objective token, he adds... Because that's the risk reward, right? He can score. He's going to get 2 extra attack dice, but he's going to go down to a 2-1-2 on his defenses.
That makes him a lot better in my eyes. I thought he didn't interact with any.
No. So I think what they've...
Okay. Right.
The reason they've put the contest in there, I think, is exclusively for researcher.
Right.
That's what I mean. He can score points.
Right, I've got to reevaluate my opinion of him then. I still don't think he's incredible by any stretch.
But by the way, Quinn, what I'm saying is here that if left unchecked in a game, he can rip through a team. But equally, Rocket can daze in round 1 with 1 5-dice attack. Right?
Unless you're an idiot, he's not going to rip through an entire team.
Well,
he's all right.
Well, and I was going to say, that's the plus side of him, right? Huge. I think when you work the numbers out, he has the highest damage output of any character on this list. And it's by quite a way. Because he gets to make 2... He can effectively be making 4 9-dice attacks, right?
That is under specific conditions.
Yes. Absolutely, right? But that's the upper end.
Well, I'd argue as a baseline, he's less consistent than X-23 and Zemo.
I don't know, right? So Berserker Rage...
They've both got rerolls built in, and I think that's what tips them over the edge in comparison. If he's on a point, and the people he's attacking are nearby enough for that to matter, then yes, he does more.
But he gets 1 extra dice on his Berserker Rage if he's attacked once already, as well. So if you charge...
What 1 extra dice out of 2 attacks versus a reroll on both attacks?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Good, right?
Yeah. Or it could... I mean, because he's effectively... He can be rolling a 8-dice builder on his second attack.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
But under those conditions, it's pretty good.
So they're the pros, right? The cons. Melted, right?
absolutely melted.
Until Weapon X get their own version of Exceptional, which honestly I thought was going to come in his box.
I did think.
Didn't. Like until they get that, like.
Now the tokens help,
so
right?
easy to kill.
Because with tokens, he's effectively a 4/3/4, but even so, still melts, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the cons. The other cons, there are two other Logans.
Yeah.
Now, I think there is only really one place where you see him, and that is in Weapon X, because you have Laura as your leader, and you bring him along, and it means you can go super wide, right? He's never displacing Wolverine or the Logan in any of the respective places that you see them, because they're very different characters, right? They are, I would call them bruiser characters. He is a bit of a glass cannon in terms of what he does. So because of that, whilst I think if the stars align, he can rip through a team, but there is a downside to it. So I think he's pretty good still. I don't think he does enough to get into A tier by any stretch. But I think you're going to see.
If you tried to put him in A, I would
no. But I think you're going to see him quite a lot in Weapon X moving forward.
I mean, great. We'll see him in an affiliation that you almost never see. Great.
They're getting more playtime. I quite like him. I'm looking at running him at the moment. Once I've finished my Dracula run,
hovering like just above Red Guardian.
Oh,
not holding extracts is a huge deal still.
It is, but surely isn't that a trait you would like every character to have?
Well, no, because I like extracts. I just don't like the current way that like the game is warped around them.
Yeah. I was thinking more somewhere in between Deadpool and Iron Fist.
That is a big leap. Shall we have him like hang out with the dog?
I'm okay with that. They're both feral.
Wow.
Well, they are, aren't they? Actually, I'd probably say Lockjaw is more well behaved. And B is for better than you thought.
No.
That does change you though, right? The fact that he can score secures does change him quite a bit, I would say.
Like, I still don't like him.
Our penultimate character, Quinn, and boy has this guy had a journey.
He's been through the ringer a couple times, hasn't he?
He was terrible, then he was amazing, and
back to being terrible.
Back to being not very good. Where do we start? Is this the up-to-date one? Or does he need a wild on his rapid fire now?
He needs a wild on his rapid fire.
It used to be a hit, didn't it?
Yeah.
Used to be a hit. Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier. He's also a rogue agent. He used to be the rogue agent of choice. Why? Because he had a range 5 rapid fire gun that, guess what, was a proper gun, Quinn. And when he shot you with
I've become Welsh now.
when he shot you with it, you bled.
Also, he shot you whenever you hurt one of his mates.
This is true. Bleed and a rapid fire on a wild, which is fine. It just means it's much harder to get. Right, you've gone from a 1 in 4 to a 1 in 8 of getting the rapid fire, which is rough.
It's also power per damage dealt, which I think if they were going to change it to a wild rapid fire, it needed to become a flat power game.
I agree.
To then at least allow him to use the other bits of his kit more reliably.
Yeah. Hydra Tic Tacs. I mean, it's great, right? It's really good. Hydra Tactics is really nice. Got Your Back. Again, used to be really good because you would spend 3 power and you'd be doing
and get 2 back.
2 rapid fires into them. Spetsnaz comes in once a blue moon. Reroll within 1. Red Fury's a nice attack. Again, the changes to rapid fire dragged everything down because it made it that much harder to get them.
Not only is it hard to get Red Fury, but also the kicker of Red Fury is less impactful because of the change to rapid fire.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not in a good spot, is he?
He needs help again, and when you nerf a character, the goal should be put them in B tier, not put them anywhere else.
Yeah. And I think the other problem he has is he now has competition.
Yeah.
He has now got
solid competition.
I mean, especially under certain affiliations with Soldat activated, where it's every attack, unless they're dazed or KO'd, that he gets to clap back on. He's in a bad spot. And I actually think probably the Howling Commandos are actually now a better version of what this Bucky is. Which is sad.
And they're in C tier, which,
I don't quite think he's D. I think he just
he's
needs...
not D, but he's in C and he needs help.
I think. Do you know what I think? And he'd be perfectly fine, Quinn. Assault rifle is a flat gainer, and I think that'd be fine.
I wouldn't hate to see it go up to 5 dice.
Or here's your other one. It stays at 4 dice. Spetsnaz training is just a reroll. Just let the man have a reroll.
If Spetsnaz training became he got a reroll on everything, he'd be like top of B, which is where I'd be very happy with him.
Oh yeah, which would be perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
Spetsnaz training, remove the range restriction.
Make it like within 1 of the character, make it within 1 of an objective. Like he's fighting harder to hold that ground or whatever.
What if he or the target character?
Well, just him himself. If he's within range of a thing, it'd be like the whole.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
You read out the activation codes and you give him his mission. Whilst he's doing that mission, he's a little bit better,
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. But right now, Quinn, he's struggling.
Yeah. I'd argue Maverick's better than him.
I mean, I'm looking at Crossbones and going, that beam attack ain't bad.
Honestly, I think if there weren't 2 other Black Widows in the game, he'd be worse than that Black Widow, but because there are, he's slightly better.
I think he probably goes there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Let's just take...
Don't listen to the people who think they're good.
No. I was just thinking because of that, but yeah, I mean, he just
they don't deserve to go in anywhere other than C. They're just bad.
Yeah, they're not good. And C, Quinn, is for
C is for covert killer.
Covertly killed. Okay, Quinn. Ending on a high.
Covert. It was a massive explosion on a plane.
Yeah, ending on a high, which is always nice to do at the end of a tier list.
My favourite 3.
X-23, Laura Kinney. Bleed and Pierce on a wild. It's pretty darn good. Claw Rush gets about a lot. Frenzy, when, not if, when this character dazes or KOs an enemy character. Weird little thing on this, Quinn. So, and this is more for people at home. Let's say she is at 0 power and she does an adamantium slash and she dazes a character.
Does 4 damage, let's say.
Does 4 damage, dazes a character. You cannot use this ability. Why not? Because of the timing. So this kicks in when the character would be dazed, which is before the power gain. So you need the power to be able to do this beforehand, which is really important. She sizes through, and then basically she gets to make a short advance and do another attack. Adamantium Skeleton, she's counts as 3. It's a blessing and a curse, right? You can be pushed and thrown by less, but you're bigger.
When you are thrown, it hurts.
It hurts a bit more. Assassin training, rerolls across the board. That's one of the reasons why she's so good, especially when you reroll into that wild for the Pierce, because it's an effective, one reroll is giving you a net gain of 2 results because you are taking one of, or in most cases, you're taking one of your opponents away and you're gaining 1. Big Sis, there's the Big Sis, Little Sis thing. They're one of the weaker partnerships in this game, I would say, Quinn.
I argue they're better than Sin and Crossbones.
I said one of. Even when I see them played together, I'm not seeing people play.
I found that when I play them together, I rarely want them on the same side of the board.
Yeah, I do find that. Healing factor 2, so, that's pretty cool.
Very good, yep.
Doesn't have a tactics card, I don't believe. Oh, no, she does.
The Wolverines
have a leadership card as well, I've just realised.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually got a couple, hasn't she? So Dossier is the Weapon X leadership.
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry, it's not. Dossier is the little thing that you can put on somebody at the beginning of a game, isn't it?
You chase someone for a token, woo.
Yeah. The Weapon X leadership is Get Dice. Are you sure you want to remember? Is that what it's called, Quinn? Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So you get 2 extra dice.
You can't remember if you're taking a nap.
Yeah, basically.
Because if she's dazed, you don't get the tokens.
Yeah, really weird ruling.
Really, really bad ruling.
Yeah, really bad. And then Wolverines, which... Yeah... Fine. To say that, this is this big team up card, right? Thor's and Bill's big team up card has just been restricted. And this is effectively doing the same thing, but
much worse.
But much worse. So yeah. X23 though, Quinn, overall, she was the Wolverine that we wanted.
For so long.
For so long. And the nice thing now is, Quinn, you get this and the Wolverine. So you get the best of both worlds. She is in New Mutants as well, Quinn.
Yeah. Is she?
Yeah, she's a New Mutant.
Oh my god, she is. Let's face it. When Exceptional was still a thing, she was S tier.
Yes.
Right? I think that was a given. Now that it's gone, I think she's A tier. And I think she's the top of it.
I agree. Ooh.
In terms of what she does.
Sam does a lot.
Sam does a lot, but she kills everything and has healing factor 2.
She's very susceptible to Mystic. But she has 2 Mystic, right? She has the same problem that, again, Weapon X Wolverine has a higher damage output than X23.
But to re-roll defensively.
Fair.
isn't as bad as you think it is. She
I mean, it is.
Well, it's not, because you thought it was just 2 dice. 2 dice with a reroll is better than 2 dice.
It is, yes. I think Sam just pips her.
I'm okay with that.
I do think Sam just.
I think having
Just
gone
pips.
from S2 with exceptional being second highest in A is now reasonable.
The second highest 3 threat in the game, in our opinion, that doesn't need a nerf.
No, fact, Rich.
Yeah. Our online meta thoughts.
Yeah, our TT thoughts.
Any other changes? Let's go through it quickly, right? Rounding out or starting with the bullshittery. Miles, Zemo.
Whoa. Shall we have a quick alphabet before we go into this?
Oh, of course. An A is for.
Adamantium Assassin.
Nice.
There you go.
So you'd already thought of it and you still fumbled it.
Shut up. Did we want to talk about you earlier? Sound like
Oh, God, I know. Right, starting off with... Let's start at the bottom, Quinn. Right?
Okay.
In
The
detail.
dregs. D for dregs.
Dragging, like absolutely scraping the bottom of the barrel. We've got Claire, Supergiant, Crossbones 1, Sin, Darkstar, Viper, Frank, Punisher, War Machine, and Hawkeye. And then in C tier, we've got Wasp, Heimdall, Black Widow 2, Winter Soldier 1, Crossbones 2, Maverick, Howling Commandos, Baron Mordo, and Gambit. And then in B tier, and remember guys, B tier are perfectly balanced, perfectly fine, good characters, okay? If you're in B tier, you're good. Blob, Shocker, Crystal, Ms. Marvel, Red Guardian, Iceman, the original Human Torch, Ant-Man Hood, Star-Lord Beast, Lockjaw, Weapon X, Mysterio Scourge, Danny Rand, the Immortal Iron Fist of Kunlun,
Correct.
Deadpool, Angel, Chosen of Bast, Black Panther, Shuri, Warlock, Groot, Vulture, Quicksilver, Mystique, Shadowcat, Doc Ock 1, Peter Parker 7, I don't know what fucking number they're on anymore, Spectacular Spider-Man, Magic, Moon Knight, Pyro, Kraven the Hunter, Storm, Arnim Zola, and Drax the Destroyer. A tier, we've got Encanto, Luke Cage, Valkyrie, Strucker, Iron Man 1, Taskmaster, Proxima, Domino, Lizard, X-23, Sam Wilson, Captain America. And then S tier, we have got Ghost Spider, Black Cat, Baron Zemo, and then the bullshit of all bullshit, Miles Morales. Anyone, Quinn...
What a prick.
What a prick. Anyone on that list that you, like, as we've gone through it and looked at it and you think, actually, that could do with being there, or because we're already 9 hours into this 3-threat list, do you think that's enough?
I just want to go home.
You can never leave. You can never leave. It's 4 threats tomorrow. No, I think it's fair, Quinn. And I think interestingly, what is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're saying 15 characters out of 80 or whatever it is fall into either side of the bell curve of these need looking at, which I think is a pretty good job by AMG. Like, credit where credit is due, balancing that many characters is not an easy thing to do, is it?
I'd argue the C tier also need a little tweak, is how they ended up being sort of portrayed in this tier list. Like
Yeah,
A
but...
and B are like where it's at, and then the rest are, you know,
decreasing levels of, or increasing levels of needing looking at. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, let us know what you think down in the comment section
or
below.
don't. Maybe keep your opinion to yourself.
Remember, guys, these are just our opinions. Okay. And this is meant to be, I suppose when I say it's meant to just be for fun, it's actually not, right? It's to try and give...
I hate doing it.
It's to try and give people an idea of not what characters can do and where they are, and you might hear that Miles is really good, and you might know he's really good, but do you know why he's really good, or do you know why Crossbones 1 isn't really good? So it's to put some context, it's to give you an idea of what is hot and what is not out there at the moment in the world of Marvel Crisis Protocol. We're going to leave it there, guys. I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon and YouTube members. If you do want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. There'll be a link down in this description, or you can just press the join button. But you don't need to do either of those things. None of our content is ever behind a paywall. Just simply commenting, liking, subscribing really, really does help. Big shout out to Leodis Games, the sponsor of the channel. They just make it that much easier for the day-to-day running of it. Check out the Discord. We have an event up at the moment. It's going to be getting drawn on Sunday, so you've still got a couple of days left to join the event, to try out all of the new toys that have been released over the last couple of weeks. Anything else from you, Quinn? Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. This was a beefy one. I'm going to have fun editing this. I reckon I can get it down to about 3.5 hours. So yeah, hopefully if you've stuck around for this long, thank you. And I hope you find it useful. Take care.
If you've stuck around for this long, you lost the remote to your TV at some point.
Indeed. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
Fuck Web Warriors.